To go, you know, but I just
Let's call this meeting to order. Good evening. This is the FinCom Capital Outlay joint meeting tonight on April 8th, 2024. The time is 7:01. I'd like to have the Capital Outlay call their meeting to order, then we'll stand for the pledge.
I'd like to call to order the Town of Carver Capital Outlay Committee. Tonight is April 8th, 2024, and it is 7:01 p.m.
We all rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Area 58. I understand we're going live tonight also. Is there something about YouTube?
It is on YouTube tonight.
So we're in two locations tonight. We're live on Channel 9, with any luck, and we're on YouTube. So that will be great. Any public comment? Mr. Former Select Board Chairman, please. Mr. Dunham. The floor is yours, sir. You've got 8 seconds.
I could probably do it before, but you wouldn't like it.
Yeah, that's it.
Alan Dunham, 11 Ricard Street, also chairman of the board of directors of the Carver COA. I noticed reading your agenda tonight that you are going to be taking a look at our budget requests for FY25, and I am here to, I won't say sternly, but to request as much as I can, do not touch it. I know the town is under problems, some of well beyond our problems. They're generating from the state. I know where there are budget problems. There are some, though, that I firmly believe are the town's problems when it came to various negotiations. But we are only the COA is only asking for a hair under $14,000 increase from last year. That is mere pittance compared to any other department I can think of, and it wouldn't even be a small fraction of an increase of one particular department that I can think of. So too long the seniors in this town have been shortchanged because it's always, oh, that's a good, we'll just go ahead and cut their budget back. They don't really need all that money. This is a small $14,000, just under that increase we're requesting to fund a half a position. Our director does a fantastic job with the limited budget she has. I'm begging you, do not think of even cutting not only the request or messing around with the original budget itself. And I thank you for your consideration on this.
Thank you, Alan. Any other public comment? Hearing none. Oh, I'm sorry.
You didn't see me.
I'm sorry. I didn't see you jump up. I was looking down here. That's why. I apologize.
It's all right. I'm Gail DeTomaso. I live at 2C Meadowbrook Way in Carver. I've been attending the COA since I moved here a little over a year ago, and I want to give just a little bit more detail to what the gentleman before me said. This additional money is to fund a person who will take over activities from a director who's doing both jobs, who has no person to fill in if they are sick, and no ability to take a vacation and have someone take her place. That's pretty difficult, and she's done it for a long time. That's my thing. It's really needed. Please don't take it away.
Thank you very much, Gail. Any other public comment? Hearing none. Is this going to be long, the town administrator, finance director update? Okay. The only reason I'm asking that is because the last time it was, and I didn't want to keep department head here. I figured we'd flip it and have you go last. But if it's not going to be long, then I'll take it now, if that's okay with you.
I might make it long. I got a lot of questions.
Easy boy.
Oh, they don't get away with it.
For those of you that don't know, This is our new finance director, Karen Praval. Karen comes to us from Brockton, where she was the city auditor. City auditor. Extensive knowledge. She, out of a room of 6 people conducting the interviews, of which I was privileged, she was the superstar. And she was not even out the door before we all looked and grinned and said, she's the one. So with that,
Okay.
and for those of you who also don't know, I'm sorry, Elaine is the interim town administrator in the absence of Bob Fennessy, who you know has retired. So now we have what really is 2 new faces in this position. So welcome, both of you.
Thank you. So we will keep it brief. We just want to lay the groundwork. First of all, I want to take this opportunity to
Hold on one second. Can you turn her microphone up, please?
I want to take this opportunity to
Much better.
thank our previous town administrator, Robert Fennessy, and our interim finance director, George Samia, for laying the basis of our FY25 budget. As you already introduced, our new finance director, Karen Praval. It is an understatement to say she has hit the ground running in her first 2 weeks. This is the beginning of her 3rd week. So I just want to thank her for all the hard work she has put in to what you have before you. As you may already be aware, the town is facing a budget shortfall. Unfortunately, this is a common occurrence across the Commonwealth for FY25 budgets. Carver is not alone in this. We have met with department heads and spoken to them on where they would like to make cuts in their budget. Just a little more detail on that is that we are looking at the bigger departments first. We are not looking to hit little departments if we don't have to. But having said that, if the state does come back and decrease their aid, then we will have to make harder decisions and make more cuts. We will, again, continue to meet with departments as necessary. And that's all I have. I'm going to pass it over to Karen.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Finance Committee meetings. I just wanted to give a brief update on the work that I've been doing over the last 2 weeks. In front of you, you have a copy of the FY25 proposed budgets for the Council on Aging, Select Board, Operations, Maintenance, Finance, and Fire. These budgets include FY23 actuals, FY24 adopted budget, FY24 year-to-date as of March 28th, and the FY25 proposed budget for your discussions. Over the past couple of weeks, I've been meeting with departments that are being presented tonight, and I'll be meeting and reviewing the budgets with all the other departments within the next week or so. My goal is to provide an updated FY25 proposed budget similar to the format that you have tonight, which is going to include the FY23 actuals, the adopted year-to-date for 24, and the FY proposed. A lot of the time over the last 2 weeks I've been working with the departments, going over salaries and making sure that the salary proposed budgets represents what has been approved by their contract. So we've been taking time meeting with departments, going over the salaries. And as Elaine mentioned, you know, revenue dictates spending. And currently all cities and towns are waiting final numbers of state aid. Right now, it's with we have the governor's budget. That's what the revenue we've projected in the FY25 proposed budget consists of. It still hasn't gone to the next state for the state for state aid. So when we have that number, when it goes to the House and it's approved by the House, then we'll be able to provide that update. With that said, that we'll be working diligently with the school department, the town administrator, and department heads to ensure that a balanced budget is presented to this committee along with the select board meetings. As we progress, the internal work that we're going to be performing will allow for transparency that I believe this committee is looking for. And the warrant this year will have minor additions that will include an index, a revenue summary so that you can see, as we're looking at revenue projections and how revenue dictates what we can spend, that you'll see the whole picture of what we're bringing in and what we're spending. But I just wanted to assure you that we're working together diligently. We're in meetings, hours, even today, just looking at ways that we can go through the budget, present a balanced budget, but meet the needs of the department heads. We are listening to what the department's needs are in a way that we can fund these. So, I look forward to this budget process and providing you more information. If there's any information or questions that you have, my door is open. Always respond to emails, and, I'm available if you have any questions. And I thank you for this opportunity to provide this update. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone have any questions? Mr. Maha.
I've got a couple.
Go
Please.
speak up, Pat.
Okay. I'm going to ask about a couple of things that certainly were done well before either of you were in these positions, okay? Because we went on months and months and months, and probably even longer than that, without having confidence in the numbers that were being generated. And what kind of assurances can you give us now that we can have confidence in those numbers? And was FY23 closed? And what was the balance, just the bottom line balance of it? Was Schedule A done with the state? I had one more. I'll think of it, but please.
With this update. So for the state, the FY23 budget was closed with the Department of Revenue. The balance sheet was submitted and approved. Schedule A was submitted and approved along with the tax recap, which is done in the fall. So all those forms have been submitted for FY23. Some people may not know, but the financial software that the town of Carver originally was using was SoftWrite. We have moved to Vadar, so we're using multiple reports. There's a lot of data entry that has to be done, but in terms of having confidence in the numbers. This is one of the reasons why I'm not presenting the FY24 proposed, because I want you to be able to see what the 23 actuals were. I want you to see what the total was expensed. I have reports from our new financial software, Vadar, that has the totals that we have spent as of March 28th. I'll be running new updates. Usually by the time we get to the end of the fiscal year, I'll have weekly reports that's showing how much is being spent, because we just need to make sure that we're, reviewing that. In addition to the numbers that you're being provided, I also have backup sheets to support the salaries, because there have been questions on how the salary number is made up. So I have backup sheets. So for the select board and the finance committee, we can provide a copy of that. It will have the hire date, the date of the employee, the annual salary based off the contract, whatever their step level is, along with any stipends, because sometimes people have longevity, or there are different stipends according to the contract that are allowed for each employee. For some employees, depending what's in the contract. So I have backup summary sheets, so if there's questions that come up as we meet with the departments today, in terms of the staff, how many they have in the department, all of that information I have, and that's been reviewed, and it will match what we currently have as our proposed FY25 budget. So there's a lot of work that's being put in place. As I always see, you need more than one or two eyes to look at this. This is, a $53+ million budget, because as I was saying, your budget is based off of what you bring in as revenue. And within my department, I'll be setting up a workflow for review. Just to make sure as we're going through these multi-reports, as I was mentioning that, there's a lot of information that we're getting from different systems. We're limited in terms of the number of reports that we can run, as we did in the past with SoftWrite, but I just wanted to assure you that a lot of time is being spent to make sure the numbers are correct, and there's a lot of review that's going to be happening within my department, and there's other staff, within the select board that we're bringing, because this effort isn't just what we put together in the finance department, but it was what we put together as a team. So as we're going through the numbers, I know George was working as the interim. So we've been meeting with him, reviewing the numbers, meeting with the school department, and working together as a team as we review these numbers. So it's not just one person doing this, but it's multiple people. And as the Finance Committee, we're more than welcome to sharing that information. I know that everybody wants to take a look. I try to send everything in Excel if there's something that you see. If you have questions, please let me know. We can make sure that that's updated. But I hope over time, I can assure you, and you'll have built confidence in our department and what I'd like to build as a team so that you get the information you need.
How close? Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I know you inherited the position that you're in, so, and I understand that. And we're going to be here to do everything that we can also to help you out with that. Has and free cash has been certified? Is that right, too?
Free cash has been certified. I have all of the free cash numbers. So if you want to know what we have in terms of total revenue, I have a report. I have backup in terms of what the state has for the governor's office, what we have for free cash, and all of our available fund balances. So I've reviewed all the revenue that the town actually brings in. So I have a report on that.
And then we're talking about what you think is it's going to be a known deficit in the FY25 budget, and if so, approximately what would that be?
I wouldn't say that, in terms of the deficit, I think that, we are looking, our goal is to present you with a balanced budget based off of the expenses and the projects that you want to fund, whether it's capital, operating. Right now, we are working on putting together that balanced budget, so when you see it, it shouldn't have a deficit because we have to work with departments, and so I don't have that number right now for you, but in terms of state aid, there could be a reduction. We don't know what that is, but I know that a lot of other communities are looking at it maybe around 3%, so that's something that we'll review with the departments.
That's good. Thank you for your answers, but just so you know, too, is we've had this situation of a lack of confidence, and again, it goes on for months and months and months, and we want to get beyond it. And you're working hard, and we appreciate that, and we'll do everything that we can to help you get there.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good.
So I'm a numbers person. I don't ever feel comfortable voting unless we have what's the revenue and what's the deficit. Could you give us an idea of what it is?
I don't have the actual deficit number because we're still reviewing, but I can tell you what our revenue is. If you want to know what our projected FY25 revenue as of the governor's budget, I can provide that to you today.
Okay. Oh, you don't have to go now. We can get it later. We can get it later. I'd like to see the revenue to know that if we decide to vote tonight, do we have the money there to vote for this stuff? Are we off $2 million, $1 million? I don't know if we know.
Well, I think that's the question that I've been asked by several members tonight. Are we voting on this? Even if we vote on this, are the numbers you've given us tonight, are these the budgets for these departments? That's it?
These are the
Or is this the best guess?
No, these are the proposed budgets with each department. I met with every department. We've gone over salary. We've gone over expenditures. I did not come to this meeting prepared to give out the FY25 proposed for the entire town because I feel like I need to be able to review the salaries for each department as I have for the ones that are being presented tonight. Once I have that, I can give you a better number.
And then I have one other question. Okay. So we used to get a schedule. I have it with me that I liked because it broke down for us what's the revenue and where it came from. Then it told us everything that had to be funded. And then it also went into what is the townwide share budget. After you broke all of that down, you came up with a number, and then we got a split. How much was going to go to the school, how much was going to stay with the town. Do we have that?
So yes, I have been working with the school department, and I've been working with the town administrator. As I mentioned, it wasn't on the agenda for tonight. So when that comes for the agenda, the information that you provide will be very transparent. So my goal is to have, for instance, the article, for the warrant, have a index, and it will probably be within the appendix, where you're going to see your total expenditures, which are going to be appropriated, and then you're going to show your revenue sources. So you'll see all the revenue sources, everything that you intend in terms of your request of how you want to use free cash. I have a list of everything in terms of the shared costs. So you're going to, and the departments that those costs fall under, because a lot of the shared costs fall under a particular department. As for the Department of Public Works, that consists of your OOM, and it consists of snow and ice. And so those are all things that, for this meeting tonight, I've included because it falls under that particular department head, even though those within the budget are part of the shared budget. But it's still an expense in the budget that has been accounted for. So I think when I have the final numbers for that I proposed, when I present it to you, I think it's going to be very clear, very transparent, so you can see exactly what we have, what we're looking at spending, what we have for capital requests, what you have, what the departments have requested free cash to be used for, and then you'll be able to see that. And then our goal is to present a balanced budget. So I don't want to come to the Finance Committee and, with a number, without having a chance to sit with the departments, because with me working with the town administrator, she needs to present a balanced budget to you. So that's something that we'll be working on. We're going to have versions.
You go first.
We'll need to have versions, especially as we look at what potential reductions could be in state aid, but we don't have that information yet.
Okay, just clear things a little bit. Right now, what the Finance Committee is looking tonight, it looks like these have been vetted. You've gone to the payroll, you're comparing against 23 actual. Are you saying that unless there's a state aid cut, you feel these budgets are solid so they can review and vote on them? Or might you be coming back and making a change to these based on the other items that you go, after you go through the other departments?
As Elaine mentioned, that if there were going to be any reductions due to state aid, we will not be looking at those reductions coming from smaller departments, and it's something that we would have to have a discussion with the department, look at what that, what does that look like? What is it, anytime you make reductions in budgets, we're never looking at, cutting people. We're looking at expenses and where we can save, things that we could possibly push out to the next year. I mean, revenue, I can't change the revenue figures, because the revenue is what the revenue is. We don't want to over-project in local aid, but it's a conversation that Elaine has set up meetings, so we'll be working with departments to have different versions. So we'll have a version, I know some of the select board have received, as George is working, a draft 6. So that draft 6 is being reviewed, and then we'll have revisions based off of anticipated reductions if it happens. If it doesn't happen, sometimes numbers come in different. So we had the vocational money that's within the shared cost that came in less than that was originally budgeted. So those are things that we'll be taking into consideration before we look at reducing departments' budgets. But that's something that I'll be presenting to the committee. This is going in week 3, so, I like to be able to, we have a short period of time that this has to be done, so I try to get things to you in advance so you have a chance to review. If you have comments, if you have questions, if you see something that you're like, Karen, I kind of want to look at that again. I'm more than willing to, to have that conversation, but, just need to have time before I present something to you, because I don't want to go back and forth saying, oh yeah, this is version 10 because, oh, there was an error here, or this is version 11 because this was missing.
So one more question. So yes. I know when we met back in January, we had talked about there was a person in IT that was in the schools, and they were coming over to the town side. Did we reallocate the percentage between the town and the school because there was a shift? We did that in the past.
The changes to the IT budget have been addressed, and so when you get the FY25, you're going to see that. And
but did we switch the percentage, is what I mean. So the 70-30, is it now 69-31 or 71-29?
I'll have to look at that and I'll get back to you.
Okay.
I think this is what's on their agenda for tomorrow night.
Okay.
They're dealing with financial policies, and one of the policy items that's on the agenda is to deal with the split. Because I think the current split that's published in the current agenda, in the current policy that hasn't been changed for 4 years, I believe that number is wrong, because they moved the health insurance above the split, which changed the percentages.
Yep.
So, but we're still written in stone that the percentages are higher than what they are now. I think what everybody's really trying to ask you tonight, and I don't know what the answer to this is either, is whether we should vote on this, and if what I'm hearing is correct, you're going to come back to us with a balanced budget, I'm assuming sometime in the next 3 weeks.
Absolutely, yes.
So should we just go over this stuff and not vote on it? Or should we take a vote on it pending nothing changes? I mean, what is it you'd like us to do with what you've given us on paper?
I think the Finance Committee tonight could look at this budget pending no state aid changes. You should have confidence in these departmental budgets.
Okay.
I have some questions about the salaries. It would be nice to see some of these increases are high. Are they contractual? Are we adding staff? Or is it just, are we, somebody getting a 15% raise?
I don't think anybody got a 15% raise.
But it doesn't tell me that here.
Well,
I just see the change. And I would like to see, it would be good to see that so we could say,
Yeah, I think
I feel comfortable with that.
the issue, I think, stemmed from last year's Schedule B that was approved at town meeting. The bottom line numbers were correct, but the individual line numbers were not accurately depicted. So unfortunately, when we go to put in our numbers, our accurate numbers for FY25, it is skewed.
Can I answer that? So as we were going through the FY24 budget, there were some spreadsheets that had different formula amounts that were not correct. And so for the FY25 budget, and this is why it's taken some time to get this information to you, is that I've been going through every employee for each department. For the departments that you're looking at right now, all of their salaries have been reviewed, their step levels when they were hired. We have looked contractually at what that step increase would be. It looks like most of the employees were getting a 2% increase. So if you like, I can provide that information. It's just in light of time, just with the 2 weeks that I've been here, there was just not enough time to be able to present and provide you with the salary sheets
I don't think
as your packet, but if that's information you like, I do have it.
Deal. I think that we can certainly have the individual department explain when they come up to the table, so that's fine.
And we can provide those salary sheets to you later. We can have those sent out.
But you've also got some things in here that, just as a generalization, there's the secret stuff that makes me crazy, and it's other, anything. I don't care what the other is. I said this to the last finance director. I said it to the finance director before her. I don't like the word other professional services, and I don't like the word other stuff. Because the word other to me means it's a wastebasket we're dumping funny money into, so we have a place to tap into it later on. And I'm not saying you're doing that, so please don't misinterpret that. But it has been done that way in the past. And we're trying to eliminate the shadow of the word other. I don't have a problem with other contractual services, and then subcategories exactly what is in that group. And that's what we've been asking for 5 years. Seriously. And this is as good a place as any to start with somebody who's fresh, and I think you get it. And I'm hoping that we can get that accomplished. I think that everybody's in agreement, including John was one of the first ones that brought it up years ago when he was still on the Finance Committee, before he stepped into the high world of Select Board.
To address that, Mr. Chair, I can say that there's housekeeping that needs to be done. And as I was meeting with the departments over the last week, the most important is having a charter accounts that accurately reflects the expense of what you, or how you're expending the money. So there's some housekeeping that has to be done based off of UMass and best practices from DOR. There's different object codes that are set up that should specify and allocate the proper allocation of where that expense is. So as I'm working with departments, I'm looking at what's been spent. I have members of my staff that are providing me detailed reports so I can see what's actually being expensed from different budget codes to make sure that, but there's housekeeping that's going to have to be done. A lot of it's going to be done, over the summer. The basic goal right now is to be able to provide you with a balanced budget and, hopefully get, updated revenue numbers so we can move forward with that. And then over the summer, that's something that we absolutely have to do because that's part of the transparency that I was talking about, before. As you look at the detailed report, if you ask for a detailed report for contracted services, then you should see every contract, and we should have a copy of that contract that's being expensed out of that budget. So that's the type of level of detail that I am looking to present and have available for questions that come up. And, as you're saying, how do you have confidence? We have confidence in making sure that the chart of account is corrected, making sure that departments are educated and they understand what account they should be using as they're using expenditures. I approve the warrant every week. So I'm looking at these accounts. I'm working with the assistant auditor and making sure that we both are in sync as we're looking at these different chart of accounts and making sure that the budget codes are set up properly. There's a lot of housekeeping that has to be done with VADAR. As I was looking at, I would like to be able to run a VADAR report and say, okay, here's the budget that you authorized. In the fiscal year, and this is where we are, and be to run these different reports.
Can you just give us like any type of an estimate how much the deficit is? Because I think I wouldn't feel comfortable voting if it was in the millions of dollars.
Oh, no. So
is there any?
So there's a lot of
$100, $50,000.
I would like to be able to review the numbers before I give that, but you're not looking at $1 million. You're not looking at $500,000. There's different articles that are part of this. As I just mentioned, we just received an updated allocation for our the vocational school that's within the shared cost that is updated, and the amount of money that was originally budgeted for FY25 as part of the draft 6 is reduced. So I can't provide that information tonight.
Mr. Chair, just maybe a final thought, and because I know we got to move on, but as far as my thoughts on as far as voting goes, I don't have a comfort factor in voting any of the budgets, particularly if there's a chance, and we already talked about a chance that they could change. I think we get an understanding. We go to the department heads, explain their budgets. We say, okay, good, we understand. We come up with a consensus. And I think that the actual vote should come at a later point in time when the figures are absolutely finalized. I think that would just be less confusing.
Given the fact that we don't have 3 months till this has to be done, we have 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So the only other opportunity without dragging department heads back in here, and I don't want to do that, is going to be at the joint meeting.
We don't. Well,
With the select
that's just
board, when the budget will be
that's just
presented.
my thought, because
Yeah.
if we're gonna vote tonight, I'm just gonna.
We can have a meeting on the night before that joint meeting with the select board, and we can put
Yeah.
capital and FinCom together again, and we can invite Karen and just do the overall budget and get a presentation then, but
Yeah.
then she has to do it again the following night with the select board.
Could we just hear what they have to present, but then hold off on our vote? Maybe
We
they
can-
don't have to
we
come
can-
back for it?
I operate at the pleasure of the board, so
Well, that was my thought.
if that's what you want to do, then I don't have any problem with
If it comes
that.
down to a vote, I'm gonna.
But we have
I'm
to
just
get to
gonna
a place
abstain.
somewhere where we have to
I'm not-
vote on
yeah.
this budget.
If it comes down that we're gonna vote on them, I'm just gonna abstain.
Well, we're going to have to vote on it sooner or later. I don't
Yes.
mind skipping it
When-
tonight,
when-
because we
when-
skipped it the last time.
We did.
I think when the numbers are finalized, because they still could be changing. Go ahead. Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to mention that, as we look at balancing the budget, we have your general government. So those are all your operating budgets that allows the town to operate and function. Those budgets are fit in within the revenue that we're bringing in. What causes the deficit are the additional articles of where you want to use different funding. So those are the different areas that we have to go through. So as you're looking at this budget, it's hard to say if you vote on this budget now and then the state says, well, the state aid is reduced by 3%. We're gonna have to look at everything. I'm not saying that these are budgets that we're not gonna touch, but if this is a final vote on, this is what we're voting and we're approving for your FY25 budget, no matter what happens moving forward, then that, would be a decision that you'd have to make. But as we were reviewing the budget consists of departmental, general government, and then the different articles, which would be, transfers to stabilization, funding of capital. There's other articles that you have within your budget that represent spending for the town, and those are things that have to be reviewed.
But if we get into a point where departments actually have to reduce their budgets, okay, let's pick on the chief and Dave. They present their budgets tonight. We say, okay, great job. They know what they're up against. They know what they have to do, and then so we're in agreement in hearing them. And then down the line, they say, something happened. The state aid didn't come in the way it was. Each of their budgets has to be cut by $100,000. Well, that's not up to us to say, to agree or not to agree as to how they cut that $100,000. That's up to them. So we've already got a consensus of their budget in principle. And if it has to get cut, then they cut it. And then that's when we vote to approve that budget.
Well, I think what you're saying is that could happen in any given year. When we've had the complete budget in front of us, we've had a balanced budget, and we didn't have state aid numbers yet.
Yep.
And we voted on these budgets, and the state aid could have come back and cut in the same scenario.
But we also have a pretty unique point in time.
Yeah, but we're running out of time.
We are running out of time, and we've been talking about that for months and months. That's another thing that we've been talking about. But it's the point of, I think it only serves the committee appropriately if we vote on something solid that we have. And if not, then
well,
I know what I'm going to do.
When do you think you'll have that number? The state aid?
So, well, we don't know. We know the state is reducing their budgets right now. And that's what we're waiting for, is to see if and when the state is going to reduce their aid. And if it doesn't happen by the time we have to approve the budget, a final budget, then it stays how it is, and
then we'll do that. But
And I think the most important thing that we should think about is, when you go into a budget and you don't know what your total projected revenue is, you have to be very conservative. And then, because it goes through different levels at the State House. So you have the governor's budget, you have the House, you have a conference committee. And so things could change at the end of the fiscal year. So sometimes a lot of the communities, if there's different areas in the budget that are reduced, we could always come back to the select board and ask, or town meeting at a town meeting to appropriate additional funds if we get additional money that's then added at the end of the year. Because a lot of times that the state budget could be reduced, and then during the year they realize they have some savings, and then for the conference committee, which would be the final the state's budget, which is usually done in the summer, we can always come back to the select board finance committee and appropriate additional money to some of the things that we had to reduce. So those are some options, but it's a little challenge right now because and every city and town is doing this right now, is figuring, okay, where can we make up if there is a reduction, which we don't know. So we'll put together different versions. And
so as far as capital outlay is concerned, do we feel like that number is still moving too?
I can't answer that right now. I'd have to get back to you.
Free cash, so sure.
I'd have to get back to you. I think when you need to see the whole picture of where we are in the budget in terms of the entire budget, what the I didn't know that for this meeting, you'll be voting on the different budgets compared to reviewing. I don't know what has happened with other departments that have presented, if those have been voted and approved. But I think it's important that you have a chance to look at the total budget. So, as I was mentioned, Ron in the school department and Elaine, and we met for 3 hours today going over the budget and reviewing it, and with the consultant George, and kind of bringing me up to speed and answering questions that I have. Hope to have that done within the next week or two. Definitely by the end of next week, I'll have numbers, and then I'll have another column for an estimate. You have to have what you're proposing and the estimated proposal if there were different reductions. But that I don't have for tonight, but I can assure you that you'll get it, and it will be very transparent. Will you be able to see everything?
Then we'll have to make tonight just a review. John?
We used to do it back in April, so the whole thing about waiting until state aid, we just make our decisions and go. But
I think what we've set
This is a
ourselves
weird
up
year.
for anyway is a fall town meeting, no matter how we cut this cake.
Yeah.
Just because there's too many variables. There's too much stuff we don't know. We don't have any idea where the school is at. We know that they've cut. We know there's supposedly some layoffs. We know that we're talking about spending money and paying off some fire engines, which frees up other money. There's a lot else going on in the outside fringe of the budget as opposed to these individual department heads. And as far as capital outlay is concerned, that's your problem. But capital outlay is the big giant wish list, and depending upon where these departments come out in their budgets and how this all works as to who's going to get what off the wish list also, there's some changes. So there's not an infinite amount of money available, as much as we'd love there to be. So I guess we just go through a review process, which is what we did the last time. And for those of that are seeing me pick up my phone and looking at it and seeing me text, because whatever I do on this phone during a meeting can technically be a public record. I have 3 people texting me that it is not live on Channel 9. They cannot access it on YouTube. So this is what's going back and forth. I talked with Rich Goulart earlier today. It was supposed to be Comcast Channel 9 Live. It's not happening. I don't believe it's Area 58's fault. I think that Comcast just sucks. YouTube, I don't know whether that's a problem getting logged in or what the story is there. Some people can see it, others can't see it, but that's what all this texting is back and forth with some very irate residents that can't see what's going on in these meetings. They didn't have select board meetings, which were extremely important because they were interviewing town administrators, and the budget meeting tonight to some people is a big deal. And they don't really feel like sitting in the room for 4 hours when they put their feet up on a hassock and watch it on TV, except, oops, it's not on TV. So it's irritating, and I don't like getting the texts, and I think somehow, some way, we need to get this fixed. That's my rant for Area 58. Nothing personal to the technician for Area 58. But this is the reason why I'm picking my phone up and answering irate people that are screaming at me right now, saying I can't find it. So that's that. So we accept what you told us, and we'll move on. We'll wait for some more reports, and we'll see what we can get. I'd like to have the meeting with the interim town administrator and the finance director on the 29th, because I believe the 30th is the joint meeting. If I got that right? So let's make that night, the 29th, let's make that the night where we're going to vote on the budget. I hate to go through it again the next night with the select board, but I really don't want to put all of us in the room at the exact same time with the select board and try to do this all at once, because it'll be an overnight lodging meeting. I really don't want to have it take that long.
And as far as capital, we don't have to vote within the 30 days.
No, you don't have
so
you don't have the 30-day
need to.
restriction. So you guys have a little bit more leeway. We've got to get the budget done 30 days, which that deadline will be the 3rd, because that's the Friday, the 3rd of May. So that's when the party's over.
There were some years when we were voting capital the week before.
Yeah, we were, yeah, there were.
Yeah.
Actually, there were some adjustments made the night of. So, but that's okay, you can do that. You just can't do it with the published warrant. That budget has to be done. So, let's plan on that. I'll have more discussion later on tonight about what the next 3 meetings are going to be anyway. So, anybody else have questions for the finance director and the interim town administrator?
Thank you, guys. I know it's a rough
Thank you
year
very much.
already.
Sorry to put you under the hot seat, but thank you.
That's fine, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Why don't we, the easy one, let's take an easy break here and let's take the Council on Aging. Connie, why don't you come on up? Alan, you can come up if you want also. You're the chairman of the Board of Directors, so I have no problem with you sitting with Connie. You just can't talk. Hi, Connie.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good.
So, I guess I'm going to ask the other question. I'm sorry, $2,500 other purchase services. What is the other?
On other purchase services, it has, if you do notice that I did take a large portion of that and allocate it to the appropriate categories. It has been for unforeseen categories of expenses that we have accrued at different times, whether it be having unexpected expense that just wasn't predicted, and that was more, it is more of like considered a buffer in that
So
category.
in case the coffee maker breaks?
No, well, we've had some things that have been expenses that we've had to incur, that's the sort of unknown, but I did try to minimize that because we did have, if you notice that in FY24, it wasn't allocated to the right location. That postage was actually the big ticket item that was just lumped into that nebulous category. So I was pulling out from that, as well as operating supplies, which is more of another category. That line item didn't even exist until the FY24 budget. So it was getting into the more specifics, and it had been an area that was being really directed to me by the finance department as to the categories that are already in the system. For example, like contract hire. If I have performers or presenters or any type of event that I have to pay out of, that's been falling under the contract hire category because I haven't had a line item that goes with.
So we could have a subcategory with
Right.
that would be entertainment.
Yes, exactly, yeah. But I
That's what we're
haven't, so
trying to
I
get
was
to.
getting the direction really from the finance director, so trying to put it in, I think, existing categories. And so that's where I did try to minimize what the other purchase services are, just in case that we were encountering something that was unplanned, basically. And I did try to minimize that in the budget and put the other appropriation in the proper locations.
Even if it doesn't need to be broken out into the 27 little line items that the other could be, but it certainly could have a description.
A description with
And
that.
that would make life a little bit easier for us that are trying to ask questions on what is the
Examples.
other.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't need to know you spent $2.75 on something and have it have its own line item, but it'd be nice to know what's encompassed in this other category, because that's like you said, this is where we put a lot of money, that's been the wastebasket, the bucket.
Yeah, and some things have come up, and I should have examples to give you, but would be that it didn't qualify for any other category. And that's part of what it would be, unanticipated, but it wasn't falling under any of the other categories to qualify for that.
The only thing I don't like about this budget is that the overall budget is up 6.66%, and I don't like 666.
Oh.
I'd like to see it either get cut $1 or increased by $1, so it goes to 667.
So I was going to say, you'd be all right with 667?
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
I appreciate that.
I don't like 666.
Yeah.
Just a superstitious thing on my part, but, I am a Christian, so. Anybody have any questions for the Council on Aging?
Can you explain dues and numbers?
Oh, yes, that is, well, the membership with MCOA is an annual fee there, but it's also the dues that are part of the My Senior Center is an annual fee for that, and that is something that hadn't been in the budget because it had been covered for the first 2 years of the program, so that's where that's being allocated, and for that, that's $2,100 per year, so that's a bump up in that category.
Those kiosks must make a fortune, right? If you're paying $2,100, then everybody who advertises on them paying.
Yeah, well, that's what they get.
It's a scam.
Oh, sure.
But we, oddly enough, don't have, we did agree to have advertising put on our kiosk to get it for that lesser amount, which was fortunately covered by CARES Act fund, which was great because it had that, the not contact, with a person situation, so that was great to find out. It was a $3,000 cost compared to the $10,000 cost if we didn't put advertising on it. To date, though, we don't have any advertisers on it, so, yeah, so I don't think there's any income, but we are benefiting from the fact that we agreed to let that happen. But it's on My Senior Center to actually solicit for the advertising. There's a notice on the screen that says if you'd like to advertise, they give you the contact information right on the screen, but to date, no one has actually advertised on it.
I guess. Anything else? For you?
I just wanted to say, nothing this year for capital? I know last year, I think you were looking at freezers or fridges.
No, we went through for the ARPA funding for kitchen, and that's what's coming through for that. So, I think we got that covered.
Where is the, you talked about an additional employee.
It's in there.
Is that the one that's in regular salaries?
It's in regular salaries.
It's a $5,080 increase?
Well, it's misleading too, because a portion of the outreach workers' salary is covered under the formula grant. So it doesn't necessarily reflect her full salary in that. So that's
That'll
what it
be
looks,
next year?
It looks, go for the...
Her full salary will be FY26?
No, it's still her salary is half and half. It's still covered by, partially covered by formula.
When does the grant end?
It's every year. Every year.
It will never stop?
Correct.
Well, as long as the earth doesn't blow up.
Oh, yeah. But I didn't know if it was like a 10-year
So
grant.
$5,080 is what you were worrying about, Ellen?
Well, the whole budget.
It was an increase of
Yeah,
total.
the whole budget increase of $13,980.
I don't see an issue. I've always believed that the Council on Aging was somewhat underfunded, just like I think Recreation's underfunded. So I have no problem with the Council on Aging's budget. I don't know if anybody else on the committee does, or any of the capital outlay members do. But I certainly have no issue with this budget. I still think it's underfunded. I think that there's more we should do, but this is what it is.
Give me another year on the board.
Yep,
I'm sorry?
there you go.
Give me another year on the board. I'll see
You
what I
get
can
one
do.
shot.
Good luck.
One shot.
Good luck. You had your shot. This was it tonight. You lost. Anyway, we're not voting on this, but I'd like to get a consensus. So rather than take a vote, I'd like to know, is everyone on the Finance Committee okay with the Council on Aging budget?
Yes.
So I'd like to get an all those in favor of being okay with the budget, not approving it. We're not taking a vote. There is no motion.
This is what my suggestion was. This is what I'm comfortable in doing.
Okay. Tony, you're all right?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Yes.
Beth? Barry? That's good. Walter? And you guys are on capital outlay.
Yep, not us.
Okay. That's the way we're going to have to do it. It's a little bit unconventional for us. We're not used to doing it that way, but you kind of got the okie dokie, so I guess you're all right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now, if
Thanks.
they, if they screw it up, it's nothing to do with us. Chief, if you're in a hurry, I can take you next, or we can do O&M.
I would rather, if you don't mind, O&M, because I just got a quick conversation with...
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Dave. For those of you who don't know Dave Siedentoff, our operations and maintenance department head.
Good evening, everyone.
Oh, excuse me, Dave. I skipped on the agenda. We'll do the transfer request at the end because the assessing department's not here. So that was no big deal. It's just a procedural. So, hi, Dave.
Good evening. All right, this is the part where you tell me O&M is getting more money, right?
Listen, I'd like to give you all you want, except I might have some resistance to that.
Okay. How would you like to do this? Would you like to go over changes? Would you like to go over every line? Salaries? What is your pleasure?
Of the board? I think we're looking for the
I don't know, just
big items.
just give us your priorities, Dave.
Yeah, give us a Reader's Digest at this point on where you're at.
So, I've actually reduced my FY25 budget. I was called in to a meeting with the town administrator and a few other people saying they had a deficit and to take a hard look at our budget, myself and a few other departments, larger departments, asking what we could reduce, if we could reduce, and what could we reduce. So I took a hard look at my numbers. Out of my operating line items, I have reduced from my original proposal that was submitted back in September. Bear with me here. I dropped $47,000 off of my original budget to try to do the best I could to help close that budget for the town. So what I reduced on, if you'd like to hear that.
Please.
Okay, so the first line item was summer help. My original request was for $20,000. I dropped that to $12,000, a reduction of $8,000. Summer help is basically teenagers we hire to work with our department over the summer.
Is that going to give you enough help?
Yeah, we can. It's one of those things. It's not that it was wasted money. It's not that it was extra, but it's something I can scale back on to help the deficit. Everything in my budget, I will say that, is I don't want this looked at, and I know that's one of the things that happens. Well, if you did without it this year, you can do without it next year. I'm looking at this as a one-year thing. I've looked at my expenditures where I am right now. My budget, as most people know, is probably one of the more fluid budgets the town has. I can get hit with a lot of unexpected. I have fixed costs. I have a lot of unpredicted costs. We do the best we can to mitigate that so we don't get hit with surprises, but the reality is surprises happen when you're dealing with buildings and vehicles and different infrastructures.
That's right.
So I can cut that summer help by $8,000 and still make things work. So that was the first one. The next reduction was building repair and maintenance. My original request was $121,000. I dropped that $11,000 down to $110,000. So looking at that, that's just one of those things what's going to happen. We never spend money like drunken sailors, but come July 1, if that's my number, I will be taking a hard look at everything that comes across my desk as wants versus needs. You know, what's needed and what's wanted. You know, and I'll make tighter decisions on those type of things.
So you're kind of going back to what you actually spent in '23.
Yeah.
That was your actual?
Yeah.
Which, given the fact everything's gone up between 5% and 25%,
right.
That's a pretty good size reduction in order to stay at that level.
Mm-hmm. And like I say, it would just be a harder look at every request that comes across. You know, can we get by with that? So we'll just take a harder look at things. The next one was capital maintenance. We reduced from $88,000 down to $80,000. That's an $8,000 reduction on that one. Same theory applies. The next one, contractual obligations, went from $7,500 down to $2,500. That's a $5,000 reduction. That was mainly due to my contract. I signed a new 5-year contract last year as Director of Operations, and a lot of things that were in my contract, which was still a carryover from the school side, now are incorporated into my contract. So that contractual obligations was able to be dropped. Utilities, we can go to next, that's all. Any questions on those? Those are my operating line items.
No, the only one that scares me, and we talked about this in your office, the only line that bothers me is whenever you get into equipment repair and maintenance, building repair and maintenance. These numbers all work until the main air conditioning unit and the roof craps out, until the 5 horsepower motor burns out in the school utility room, until something else that we have to pay for breaks. We have reserve account funds for that, but when you're dealing with, and Dave's correct about the most fluid budget, there's so many unknowns in the operating and maintenance, just like there's so many unknowns in the maintenance and upkeep of our own houses. We don't know. We hope for the best, and when something breaks, we go get it fixed. So the same thing goes for the town, but I think we're on a little bit larger scale here.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I said to Alan, you know, I can, right now, this is just, these are numbers. Yes, I've looked to see what I've done, and I think these is on a good year, we'll make these numbers work. If something pops up, I may need to come to FinCom and say, here's the emergency, here's what happened, here's what we need.
That's right.
Dave, do you mind, just where we have capital outlay here, could you talk about the capital maintenance account?
Yep.
And what those projects usually are?
So capital maintenance is what we use for, pull a few different things out of that. I actually had a meeting with Karen last week, and we're gonna change some of these names as well, just to make them more understandable for her, myself, and all these, committees. So capital maintenance was actually changed, I apologize, it was kind of came about, that was a ATM, and it was changed into an operating line. So what we use that for is fields and buildings.
So was it changed in this year's '24 budget?
Yes. Yes.
I think what, going by memory, what happened was, you know, when you have capital, you buy it, you build it. Once you put it in service, you have capital maintenance. I call it maintenance. I wouldn't use the word capital, but it's maintenance.
Right.
You can't have it in a warrant article as
right. And that's what we've talked about, changing some of the names.
Part of the housekeeping that you were referring to earlier.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Capital that we fund in the capital fund, and then there's capital outlay, which is funded in the operating budget for capital expenses that are going to occur within the current fiscal year.
Right.
The other one, other professional services. I can tell you the bulk of that is at $20,000. The bulk of that is police details for our department when we're doing road work. That's not all that it's used for, but I would say probably 90–95% is for police details when we're doing road work.
So, police details when O&M itself is doing road work, or when you've hired an outside repair company? If you're doing paving on...
If we're doing paving on...
You have a cop out there for a detail?
Yep, that comes out of our budget.
So your budget's paying the police department?
Yes, yep. Or we're rebuilding a catch basin, we're cutting brush on the side of the road, whatever requires a detail.
I wasn't aware that we were paying
Carver
the cops to do work for our own DPW.
Well, they must be booking a reclass, like a journal entry. But it is our own police, not someone else?
Well, it depends. It'll go through our police department first. If they cannot fill it, they reach out to surrounding towns, sheriff's department. We get invoices, bills, payroll slips from all
So
different
is this
departments.
most likely a number that's for outside details?
It's a combination. That's what we spend out, whether it's Carver Police, Plumpton, Bristol, Plymouth County Sheriffs, whoever it may be.
Anybody else on the operating part of the budget? Capital outlay, folks, feel free to opine in on that too. We're going to get to capital outlay with O&M in a second, so, but you can feel free to speak about anything that's on the budget side of things as well. You just can't vote on it, but you can certainly speak about it. Going over to utilities, I'm thrilled to see that cut the gasoline budget, but why do we cut it only down 30,000 now? I thought we were gonna cut it 50,000.
I believe it did, but the original, I think what happened, right here we have FY '24 adopted at 150. I believe that was set. I'm looking at gasoline. All right, 150, 180. I believe it was FY '23, the actual was 225.
Yeah, but prices were much higher.
Right, right. The FY '24 adopted, we went in at 150. As of right now, we're at 137 is what I've spent as of March 28th.
So there's a good chance we'll be over. We'll be short.
92% of your budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that increased
So
to...
you proposed 180 for FY '25. We were going to originally bring that back 50,000. We decided what? You decided to take 30,000 instead?
I'm looking at the numbers, yeah.
I know gasoline's back up again.
Yeah,
Are we on a fluctuating number for gasoline, or are we on a
Yes.
contractual rate?
I believe that's a fluctuating number.
Okay.
I will check on that.
Can you, while you're checking on that, I meant to ask that of the schools also, because they buy the diesel fuel.
It's usually Monday, so, like, usually the Monday sale per price plus a certain number.
Okay.
So
It fluctuates.
But it depends on that Monday price.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually tank wagon?
Yeah.
Okay.
So whatever the pipeline price is plus
Yeah.
a flat amount. So
Yeah, they
the flat
find a,
amount is set.
yeah, they find some report where they use that as the standard.
This is called the Monday sell price.
Okay.
Is the report.
Because that is off the state bid
We used
list.
to use tank wagon, so it's the same difference.
Yeah. So it is, that's another one that just, it varies weekly.
And the problem with all of these utility things is you just don't know. Electric, propane, heating oil, gasoline, diesel fuel. You know, it's a get a dartboard and throw some darts at it. Because you just don't have any idea where it's going to go.
We put in our best educated guesstimate, we'll call it. So that's
So that cut
gasoline.
at 51,000.
Electric and streetlights, we were able to drop $60,000. Oil heating, $11,000. Telephone, $10,000. So we've dropped the utilities, $51,681. Most of those savings come from newer systems. The library, you can look at it as that was basically all gas heat. We've gone to a full VRF system, but we also have a building management system. That building was basically running 24/7. It's now on a set time schedule. I can access it right from my office, from my laptop, and make changes and see what's going on. So we're able to recoup a lot of energy savings in these newer systems.
Well, that's good. And electric and street lights, I guess we need to have a discussion sometime. You need to give me some education on these metering credits that we seem to be getting from solar, where we see, I know I've seen like the library's electric light bill has a $80,000 solar credit on it, but you can't have the money. It's a number on a piece of paper that we can't seem to access.
So that is the Eversource Schedule Z. So when we signed up for these solar contracts, at that time, you had to sign up for your Schedule Z. So we may not have even had the new fire station or the new police station yet. And we did it based off of percentages. So what percentage does the library use? In the meantime, we have new buildings. We have the LED lighting in place. And everything is kind of off kilter. We have a whole building not being used. So to get that Schedule Z changed, you do have to move mountains. We've had it done once, and Eversource does not like to do it often. So that is something that is on our radar that we know needs to change.
Okay. Thank you. It's one of the things I get a lot of questions about. People want to know what's going on with this stuff. So. And then you want to break down the last of it, the snow and ice, and...
Yep, snow and ice really has not, there's a 0% change. from, let's see, right now, as of to date, we spent the budget, proposed budget for FY25 is $313,496. To date, we had spent this year $214,386 to date. So, and that budget is hopefully closed.
And unfortunately, with snow and ice, you can't lower it.
Right.
You can increase it, but you can't cut it. So if it was up to me and back in the day, and if I had known that, I'd have suggested it stay at 50,000, which ironically is what some of the other towns do, and they just run a huge deficit and they're all set. But otherwise, like this, if no more money is spent this year out of the snow and ice budget, then the difference between what we've allowed and what's actually been spent goes into next year's free cash. And it's not even a revolving account where we can replenish it to that amount. It goes just, the whole thing gets zeroed, and we go back and start all over again, which helps free cash, but surely doesn't help our budget process. Anybody have any questions for O&M on the budget?
No, the budget.
We'll get to that.
Okay, just don't forget capital.
Okay, your turn.
Hey, Dave.
Here comes the tough part, Dave.
Oh, it's not tough. Thanks for doing this. I know you mentioned, I think it was the dump truck might go up. Is that still true?
Yes. So actually, I have it in here somewhere. When I gave my original numbers on the truck, just for my own peace of mind, I actually reached out 3 weeks ago on the state bid list, and because the number has gone up. Typically, if we had our town meeting already, and I found out if FinCom and Capital had approved it and town meeting approved it, I could place an order for, let's say, a vehicle, which we're talking about at this point, a 3/4 ton pickup for my grounds crew, one of their vehicles. We could order it knowing the money is not available till July 1, but knowing the vehicle wouldn't come back in, I could lock that in. Well, because town meeting is now not until June, he said there's a good chance that the vehicle I purchased will have to be an FY25, a 2025 vehicle, not a 2024 vehicle. If I can possibly find a 2024, that's a tongue twister, vehicle to meet my needs, fine. But if not, there's a $5,000 increase from from 2024 to 2025.
This on the 3/4 ton?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm looking for dump trucks here.
Yeah, no, it's a pickup truck.
I called it a dump truck.
Yeah. So actually, the cost is $68,000. I sent it to Beth. I have it in here.
Yeah.
Bear with me. So right now, the cost of that vehicle would be $68,304.60.
68,305.
So 8,000 more than we thought. And are we still looking at the feasibility study if there's a shortfall?
I met with you a few weeks when that was, prioritizing my number one need is the pickup truck.
Yep.
My number two need would be the energy efficiency, the $100,000. What I would be doing with that would be continuing to do another section of the middle high school with LED lighting. That gives us a big bang for the buck. I'm also putting in for another state grant, matching grant with the DOER. So hopefully we'd have $200,000 to work with that. And the third would be the feasibility study, the $50,000. And what that is, just an explanation for everybody. We have a few buildings in town. That one is the old police fire station that is sitting empty right now. We need to have an architect engineer come in, look at everything in town, and I think the things that need to be looked at in town are that building. Can it be repurposed? Should it be repurposed? Council on Aging is an old building that is getting hard to suit the needs of the patrons that visit there, go there. And the third is EMS has expressed an interest in the moving up to this building if possible. So those are the things, what this feasibility study would do would be an architectural engineering firm come in, we would tell them, all right, these are our three buildings, departments that have said maybe their, resources aren't adequate, their infrastructure. Where do we go from here? They could say, nope, that building will serve no purpose, tear it down. Do we have enough land for another building? Maybe a COA, maybe an EMS building. These are things the feasibility study is going to tell you. Now, is the town in a financial situation to do anything right now? No, so that was why I said if we could push that back a year or two. I think it's something we need to do for many reasons, but it's not highest on the priority list.
Just one more question.
Yes.
Like, I know it's O&M, but where potentially the energy efficiency studies for the school, would we actually lump that to the school's budget, or do you still keep that up in O&M?
I'm sorry, is that under the school, Beth?
Oh, no, you know how you have the first one, 100,000 energy efficiency projects? When we have those under the school, do you eventually reclass those as a school capital item, or would you keep this up in O&M?
No, I keep it as O&M.
O&M.
Yeah.
Because we're responsible for the maintenance.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that's above the line, if you will. That's on us.
Do you guys have any questions for capital? No.
Yeah.
What a surprise.
Can we start off with the energy efficiency project study? That was one that back in, I don't know, we cleaned out a lot of capital accounts. There were 1 or 2 years worth of costs, I think, that we cleaned out. I'm looking at last year's capital. We've got $100,000 that was approved but nothing spent, and now you're asking for another $100,000.
No, that was spent.
I've got.
That was spent out.
Radar's saying, I got a list that's saying that a bunch of these accounts have nothing in them as far as dollars being spent. So you spent the $100,000 from last year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Doesn't this have like a grant that sometimes offsets it?
Yes.
This one? So I wonder if you're seeing a net.
So, yeah, I'd have to sit down with Karen and figure out why or where, but that money was spent.
And
so
what was spent, LED lights for high schools?
So we did 2 projects I did. One was funded by the DOER grant, which primarily did weatherization. I did weatherization in the fire stations, in the library, school administration building. What they came in, they did insulating, they did weather door stripping, windows, things of that nature for weatherization. And then the middle school side of the middle high school first floor, all classrooms were converted to LED lighting. Yeah, so I still have, so what I've done, John, both gymnasiums have been done, the cafeteria has been done, the library has been done, the middle school side classrooms have been done. I'd probably, first floor, I'd probably be looking at moving to the high school first floor. That would probably, I'll have to look at the numbers, but that's probably about what $100,000 will get us.
Okay.
So that would pretty much do the whole first floor of the middle high school. Return on investment on LED lighting is 5 to 6 years.
Got it. I'm looking at last year's capital, the 24, when you have the 25 estimated what your needs were going to be last year compared to what you're asking for this year, just looking to see if there are any changes.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like last year you wanted, you were going to replace a one-ton dump truck, number 623. Is that something that you still need to do, or did you going to put that out?
So that, let me see, I don't have my number here. I think 623 is what's getting replaced.
It was ordered? I think in 27.
Oh, no, that wouldn't be 623. That was a large 6-wheel dump truck last year that was ordered, which is due to come in about another month.
That was the Mac, right?
Yeah. 623, I believe.
It was estimated 60,000.
Is that the one that we ended up picking up used?
No.
There is a number 623 for FY27 now, for 75,000.
Okay, yeah, that's what I have here on this list, 623. So that is my other grounds truck. 623 is my other grounds truck in FY27. What I'm looking at, the 60,000 is replacing, I don't have the truck number, but it was actually taken off the road last summer due to inspection.
Okay.
Safety.
I think this is self-explanatory. You had seal coating at the library town hall, 50,000 for 2025. Is that getting rolled into the, did we do it, or did that roll that into?
No, it's just something we've looking at the capital numbers, is there anything we can push back? I mean, and looking at the further down the road, where it's probably gonna be a parking lot replacement versus just seal coating at this point. But that'll be kicked down the road.
Okay.
We're talking 5 to 10 years.
And the 697, one-ton dump truck, that was looked at for about $80,000. Is that the one you listed above? That was a three-quarter ton dump truck at the 6308 price.
Let's see, I don't have, I'm sorry, the list I have in front of me doesn't match yours. I don't have 697 on here.
Yeah, I just got a one-ton dump truck with plow replaced for number 697.
And what year is that scheduled for?
That was what you thought you needed for 25 and 24.
Okay.
I don't see that getting pushed off. I mean, did it go, is it maybe?
Isn't that the 60,000 one for this year? 68,000?
The 68,000 says a three-quarter ton dump truck with plow. It's the same vehicle?
Right, no, so what I'm looking at to purchase this year is, it's replacing a one-ton dump truck, but I do not need a dump truck. So I'm replacing it with a pickup truck.
Got it.
Because right now they had 2 used dump trucks from the DPW. From my grounds crew, I have two groundsmen. They have 2 one-ton dump trucks. I don't need 2 dump trucks, so I'm gonna replace it with a pickup truck, which is cheaper.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Anything else for capital?
I'd like to see us, if I may.
Yeah, please.
I'd like to see us push the feasibility study. That'd be my suggestion. I'd like to see us perhaps shift some of that feasibility study to fix, and Dave's a better person to ask about this, but it's looking like the floor in the downstairs town hall is looking a little wavy. I think I broke a tile the other day walking by. Must have hit it just right.
What's scheduled, I have that on capital for next year.
Is.
So what's happening down there, what they did, they probably put a floor leveler in on top of the subfloor, and it's a thin set of concrete, and that's all starting to break up. So I don't know how extensive of a job it's going to be, because it may be grinding out a lot of that.
Yeah, you won't know till you pull it up.
Right.
But that's that section of floor, if you happen to walk from here to the clerk's office, when you get to that doorway, the floor goes like this. It's the tiles are all busted up and everything else because the thin set is breaking up, and the tiles won't support any weight, so they just crack and break. So before it becomes a major expense, I'd much rather see us get after it before it becomes we got to replace and tear the whole building down, start over again. Just my 2 cents. Do you want to vote on the capital for them, or what's your plans with that?
No, we're not voting tonight.
Okay. Well, I have nothing else for capital outlay. Anybody else in the FinCom?
Yeah.
I just want to say something too.
Sure.
It's just like really pushing on me. That building repair and maintenance, how we're gonna propose and all that. I'm still just like, I don't know, I feel like
Right. No, I've looked at what I've spent, and like I said, it'll be a tight year, and I may have to come to FinCom at some point and say, guess what, this happened. For 1 year, I can do it. Those numbers will not hold for the next 3 to 5 years. I cannot take that cut in the next 3 to 5 years. For 1 year to make our numbers work, yes. Now, I can't guarantee that, but that's what I think I can comfortably do pending any large emergencies and make it work.
See, I would much rather have that, because let's face it, you could have cut that budget by $50,000 and made it look good. You could have cut gasoline by another $30,000. We could have found these kinds of cuts just within this budget here. And the problem would be, we'd lose every nickel of the $175,000 in the reserve fund, plus when the dust all settled and the real numbers came in and started to hit with, oops, we made, we're short here, we're short here, we're short here, then the police overtime budget kicks in, and then something else goes wrong, and we find that the $175,000 that town meeting is kind enough to let us have charge of every year for an emergency reserve account is completely inadequate. So, I mean, I really appreciate, I know for a fact that that Dave pained over this and looked at it and cut what he felt comfortable cutting. Because the flip side of that coin is that he cuts too much, and then he looks like the fool who, why'd you cut so much? So it's a tough place to be in, and I get it. So I appreciate that you took this as seriously as you did, Dave. And I think that your numbers, they're conservative, and I think that they're your best guess, and you've been doing this a lot longer than all of us have within this town, so I have to rely on that.
Thank you. Like I said, it's a 1 year. Hopefully FY26 is more promising.
From your mouth.
But we'll always do what we can to make it work for the town.
Okay. Anything else? Anyone else?
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hey, Chief. Get them all warmed up for you.
Thank you for cheering off for me. Just give me 1 second.
See, I want to know why O&M doesn't produce, and the police department, we don't get this kind of stuff from anyone other than the fire department.
I'm just gonna go on.
You've got a good budget.
No, we've got a good chief who spends a lot of time doing this stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks, boss. Okay.
Thank you.
You see how many, you see these? I wonder why it smells so bad. Look at the stink bugs. Yeah, they're everywhere. Must have the windows open.
Okay, that's the same thing. Okay, this is budget.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ooh.
Thank you, Chief.
They have one over there too.
There is, so I'll just explain that right now, okay? And so first of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Before I get too far on that, I do want to thank our interim town administrator and our finance director. I'll be honest with you, they're working very hard. And they're doing a lot of things in a short period of time. And I recognize that, and nothing is perfect. And I'm probably the one that screws them up more than anything. So I'll take that right now. So seriously, they're trying to do a great job, and it's just a lot going on right now. And I have complete confidence. So what I'm going to present you tonight is exactly what I presented to in September for our original budget. Nothing has changed. We did the same thing to our town administrator in November. We did the same thing to this board back in January.
Motion to approve?
Yeah, no. So again, I'm not gonna try to bore you, but it is the same presentation, okay? When I go through it, the small handout that I just gave you, the handout that came out a little while ago that was for all the towns that you saw, that got some numbers that have been, I'm going to say this wrong because I don't know how to really speak, transposed, excuse me. So the number, so my budget is right, okay? We just have to make some modifications to the one that was presented early, which I'm very glad that you did not vote that, because it wouldn't have been totally right, okay? And that's my fault, all right? So in the little sheet that you have, you're going to see under Radio Emergency Committee, probably about the 5th one down.
Put that back.
That should be crossed out for 10,000. That does not go to this budget. So that total budget down the very bottom, that's $884,000, is reduced by that 10,000. Okay? So, which matches the budget that was presented right from the beginning. So I just saved you $10,000, all right? Well, maybe Karen did. All right, you saved us $10,000. So, do we understand that? We good? Okay, all right. So the way my budget works out is very simple. It's salaries and operating. My salaries budget is $736,814, which matches what the addendum came out that you just saw. So there are really no changes there. My line item is per the contract. It does go increase 2% a year. That's the way it's read. My contract is renewing this year, and the same with Chief Dufilly. The full-time deputy chief's position is basically a 2% increase. That's what we do every year. The only thing that's changed is per the town administrator prior. Our steps were ending, basically, from a lot of our people that have a lot of seniority. So they went from a grade C, step 13, to a grade B, step 11. There was no really change to that wage. It was just, we just changed the grade. Okay, so we get a little more life going on there. He does get a stipend, 10% for his base salary for on-call 24 hours a day, and he does get a stipend for 7% because he does the communications basically for all public safety to coordinate that. That's always been the way we've done it. We take that and we put that into his weekly salary or his bi-weekly salary. That gets rolled in. The full-time assistant deputy chief, which is Jesse Boyle, same thing. We moved him from a grade D, step 7, to a grade C, step 2. It was just, to make him give some longevity. He gets a 10% stipend for being on call 24 hours a day. And that's, we've kept it as a 10%. We have not changed that since either one of them have been hired. So again, per the town administrator, we did change those grades. Our full-time dispatcher is going to be a grade I, step 11, and our part-time dispatchers, which we have 9 of them, are a grade K, step 12. We do have what we call an overtime part of that budget. It's really more of just additional details because, for snowstorms or longer events. Inside that budget's about $18,000 of the dispatch salaries. So we just increased that 2% just to keep it consistent with everything else. The big thing that we did do, and we talked about this with our finance meeting before, is all dispatchers, public safety side, the fire department side, we decided to increase them between 10 and 11% based on we had some hiring problems. That was voted by the town administrator. It was voted by the select board. That went into effect on February 6th, let's say. This year, I felt we had enough money in our current budget that we kept that increase for the remaining of the year, but we don't need any more money to do that. I feel we can just do it in the same budget we have. Next year is why in the chart you see, a large, 13% increase on dispatchers. That's because 11% of it went into the next budget, okay? And that's what was agreed upon. Our firefighter salaries, which covers 80 to 87 firefighters and officers, that was just increased 2%. We didn't add any additional money for that. I felt like that's been funded pretty well over the years.
We only got 1% last year, right? We gave them 1% COLA. Was that an addition?
So that's different. So don't confuse yourself. So most people get a step.
Yeah.
So that all our steps are calculated at 2% all around the town. A COLA is something that.
No, I understand what that is. But they got a 2% last year in the step.
So 1%.
Then we gave them a 1%.
Correct. Yep. And this year a COLA hasn't been decided what anyone's doing.
Right.
So we're not presenting that.
Right.
Sorry.
And how much are they making an hour, Chief? This number always shocks me.
Right now, I think the firefighter is $20.17, and it goes up a half 50 cents for a lieutenant, 50 cents for a captain. So
$20.17 to run inside the burning building. Always shocks me.
Then we switched to our operating budget. which our operating budget is $137,180. Again, your chart says 147.42. When you subtract the 10,562, you get to 137,180. Okay, and that's what we will be staying at. We're not changing that.
Okay.
In that includes, you see the percentages. Sometimes they can look a lot, sometimes they're little. We added $4,000 to our operating. It's $1,000 we added to our training. Basically, our cost of training and just the supplies and everything have gone up. Telephone, internet, and our GPS tracking, we added $1,000 to that, based on just vendors just cost more money. Books and references, we try to budget for NFPA code subscriptions. That's $1,600 a year, and that's what we rely on our code enforcement person, our C3. So that's an annual thing that we actually try to stretch that for 2 years. So it's kind of like every other year we get that funded. And the last one was dues and membership, which is all the dues are going up. So we just added $1,000. The other item you will see on the back of it is fire department capital projects. Since capital outlay has kind of changed the way they fund, which used to be, I think it was 10,000.
It was 10.
10,000. We did have a project this year that was below the threshold. We have been over the last few years trying to renovate our Fire Station 3 in South Carver. That was built in 1998. All the renovations have been done by our firefighters. Everything we do, painting, everything's been going up. Last year, capital outlay, or 2 years ago, funded, I might get this wrong, I think it was $15,000 back then, where we renovated a training room, which has been completed, a kitchen area has been completed, and then one more spot. We would like to continue that renovation, where we're going to do an office, a bathroom area, a hallway, and so forth. That's a $10,000 to do that. Now, this is new, and I told before, if there's something that we had to cut or move, that's $15,000, we can do that. I would probably recommend we don't, because we want to keep, it's 1998 building, we're trying to keep it renovated. And I think $15,000, we do all the labor, and for the most part, but again, we can save that money. Okay, there's $15,000 that is new money from last year. So my goal wouldn't be, like, next year we'd finish that project, wouldn't be to put that $15,000 again, unless I had a real reason to do it and it didn't meet capital outlay. So that could go up and down every year, okay? In your book, I do give you a breakdown for the salaries for every person. You can watch that if you want, but it does grade what everyone is making. So that is my pitch for operating in salaries. Again, it hasn't changed. Some of the percentages you will see change, but if you're only budgeting $2,000 to begin with and you add another $500, it looks like you've gone up 25%. It is kind of what it is. So that is really my operating salary budget. I know I certainly can talk a little bit about capital if asked, but I'd certainly take any questions on the operating and salary if you want.
Is the uniforms a typo on you?
So let me see. So
on your sheet it says 2,000.
It's 2,000.
But on here it says.
And that's what I was trying to explain. All the numbers got shifted and moved. So I really would ask you, trust me, because they got moved. They're not. I can tell you which every one of them they are if you want me to, and they are on. If you look at my thing, you will see they are under the operating section. Okay, and they are correct.
Anyone else have questions about the budget portion of the fire department? Chief, are we setting any money? I guess this gets into capital, I imagine, with your permission.
Yeah.
Are we setting aside any money for PPE? Like the last time we had to foot the bill for PPE was a big deal, and because the stuff's only good for 10 years.
So the answer to that is no. Just because there's so many capital projects, and they got to fund at a certain time, and our goal was to replenish that at 10 years. That will be, believe it or not, we're past 5.
Yeah,
So that's
that's
coming.
why I was-
And it was a healthy discussion back then, whether we try to fund that every 5 years. And I don't, no one opposed to that, but when you lay out the capital and you look out the chart, it just didn't work. It just, because it's a $500,000 to $600,000 item that we've just found, there's so many items that we've just found we take them one piece at a time. So that's the honest answer. I mean, would we love to do that? Yeah, of course we would. I mean, it's always going to be a problem we're going to be facing. But we've recommended that we just keep it with a 10-year plan. And so at year 8, we're coming to see, and we're trying with grants, see if we can get them. And if we can't, then we're looking to, it is in the capital plan. So that's all I can tell you. It's part of the capital plan now.
And by then, it'll be a lot more expensive than it is now. Because everything else has gone crazy.
Yep. You tell me how you'd like to proceed.
So
Madam Chair.
it doesn't, do you guys have questions? It looks like it's the same 3 items from before,
It is.
right? The rehab.
Plus a
brush breaker.
bonus, yep.
Plus a bonus.
Oh, you're right, you saw it, it's in there. It is the 3.
Do you want to go through?
So there are, we'll just say 4, just so to be accurate. There's 4 capital projects that are planned. They've mirrored our capital projects from beginning, so we've had for years. We just kind of move them around a little bit, forward a little bit. The first one is to rehab our existing brush breaker 29. That's $265,000. I will be honest with you, that's a very I'm going to say it wrong. We're going to be lucky to get it at that amount, okay? Because the costs are just going up crazy. We have a brush breaker right now being rehabbed, our breaker 28. That's scheduled. It was scheduled to be finished the end of April. End of May. We didn't make that. We're looking at the end of May to finish this. And it's the sister truck to what we just did. It is just again, it's over 26 years old, and it's just time to rehabbed. Okay. A new truck for that same apparatus is over $750,000.
Crazy.
And it is crazy, and it's crazy to buy that. So,
absolutely crazy.
You know, it can be fixed, but there's a cost to it. Okay, and that's what we've tried to budget. The next one, and again, I'll take these cars in priority because I think before you asked to put them, what would be our priorities? Yeah. That would be my number 1 priority, is that piece of apparatus. Okay. The second one, which I'm going to take, I think I'm going to take it in out of order, is the rehab of our existing water rescue boat. That's scheduled for $25,000. We purchased that in 2008. You know, so it's, you know, almost 18 years old, or whatever you want to figure now. That needs some TLC. It's a rigid, inflatable craft, so we have one section of it that keeps deflating, that we have to inflate every, week or so. It needs some motor work, it needs some trailer work, it needs some TLC. We did get an estimate of that. It's around a little less than $25,000 to do that. So we're recommending that we do that, okay? That's the only rescue craft we have for this type of vehicle in our fleet, okay? The third priority is to rehab our training facility burn rooms. I think you're all familiar, across the street we have our training facility. We're very privileged to have that. There are 3 places in that room that we have live fires. 2 of them take a lot of stress from all the training that we do. When we built that facility, it was recommended back then, they kind of hit it right. The vendors recommended probably about between 7 years you'd have to do some maintenance to that facility. And what we're finding is in those burn rooms, just the burn rooms, not the whole facility, it is starting to buckle from the high heat. That we deal with about temperatures of about 1,200 degrees where these fires are going off in the ceiling. And that starts to buckle over time. We would bring the vendor in, they would put new batting and new stainless steel on the top, and we're not doing the whole room. And then we'd be good again for another, 7 or 8 or 9 years. This is something that if we had to push a year, we could. I'm just going to say that cautiously. When that room or building can't be used, that's a real problem, because that's the hot blood of our whole training program. So I'm not telling you it's falling apart, because it's not. I'm just trying to be proactive and get a hold of it, because even if we were to do this tomorrow, it'd still probably take a year to do it. So the last one I had, which was our priority 4, I think was, obviously we talked about in our other meetings. We have had in our capital program for at least 7 or 8 years to purchase an aerial device for this town. And we can have debates all we want. I look at safety and I look at a lot of things, but it's time to be purchasing this product. We always push it down because it's so much money. And right now, this vehicle is well over $2 million to buy this vehicle, okay? I'm not telling you we need to spend $2 million right now. That isn't why I'm here. What I'm here to say is we used to have a capital stabilization fund, and we had well over $1 million saved from a lot of hard work that went just for a capital program in case something went wrong. And a lot of that was allocated for an aerial device. I had worked with a previous town administrator that we did a lot of work on looking used types of these vehicles and used ones. And, you know, it was always under this understanding, if we could find one, we had this money set aside that we could use it, if provided we could justify it. Well, that fund has gone away. There is no more $1 million in that fund. And so there is no more, if I found a used vehicle, let's just say I found one for a couple of $100,000, which I'm not recommending that, but if I found one, we don't even have the money to go purchase that, because there's no fund set up for that. So what I'm asking for is a capital stabilization fund be reset up that for some amount of money gets put in every year. You know, I put in, and again, this is fictitious, I said if $250,000 was found to put in the capital station fund for this year, it's not enough to buy a new piece of apparatus, but it's a start. Next year we get another $250,000. The next year we get another $250,000. All of a sudden we might be halfway there to purchasing the vehicle that we eventually want to buy, and maybe it's very palatable to bond it or, you know, lease it or for half the cost or something. But right now we're not doing anything. I'm just taking this capital outlay program and I'm moving it every year, and that's not helping anybody. Okay, and that's just, someday that's going to bite us, in my true feeling. But I know we can only do so much. So that's what that is for. It's to try to get that fund established. And maybe it's 100,000. Maybe it's good.
Yeah, if I could just reiterate what you were saying, is the plan way back when was to take personal property new growth and to put it in its own separate stabilization fund and let that grow at 2.5% every single year. That once it builds up to a big balance, we could then do something like the police, the fire, and then keep it growing. And as soon as it triggers enough funding for this, it grows. That methodology, I guess, was changed 3 town administrators ago, where there was just a targeted capital balance, so things could get done faster. But I think you're right. I think what he tried doing was replacing into our policies the solar money to have 1/3 be dedicated to capital. So you had that number in there, building, kind of above and beyond what we were putting in there for free cash and everything else. So you're 100% right, we need a capital plan. We need something that's dedicated, a dedicated stream.
You shouldn't be funding, and again, I'm trying to stay in my lane. But in my opinion, you shouldn't be funding capital projects with just whatever free cash is available every day. That's not a plan.
I agree.
A plan is, just like we did, you know, a number of years ago, we had a plan. And that plan was a good plan, and we were able to fund it very easily. But now we're back to the days of, you know, okay, there's $300,000 left in free cash, that's what we can use, and then we all sit, you know, among department heads and figure out who's a priority and who isn't, and we do that well, but that's not a plan. So
if we had stuck with that old plan for FY22, I have it from, it must have been done in FY21 for FY22. It should have been $2,060,000 in the debt and capital stabilization fund for capital outlay. Just that one piece of that whole fund.
So again, I think we have the tools now to do that. And,
I think you're absolutely right. And I think finally we'll have this on track.
Yeah, and have
I think financial policies are changing tomorrow night.
Helps that.
Reviewing them anyways.
Hope we're going to review, and I agree with you. And I'd be more than happy if we were to have money put away into a stabilization fund that even had $1 million in it, and the chief came and said, listen, it's time to buy the truck. Well, we got $1 million to put down on it. We can bond the other $1 million. We bought 3 fire engines by bonding them. You know, so I'm not opposed, and we borrowed last year to do the siding on this building and the HVAC, and got it done. So the longer we kick the can on this fire engine thing, I thought it was a pipe dream 5 years ago, but the longer we kick the can on this, 5 years ago, I think your estimated number was 1.5 or 1.2.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Now it's over $2 million. We wait another 5 years, it'll be $2.5 million, and it'll be a 2-year wait to get it. So, you know, this is just the way it's going. I have a piece of equipment that I paid $72,000 for 2 years ago. That same exact piece of equipment today is $87,500. And nothing has changed on it. Nothing has changed on it. So it's just insane, and it's going to continue with your capital costs are going to continue to go up, Chief, because everything you're trying to buy is going to escalate every single year.
Sure.
So I agree with you. I think we need to have a fund. I think it needs to be a dedicated fund, and I think that that's up to the select board to create that policy. Hint, hint.
Any questions on capital?
Yeah.
That's good.
Anybody else?
No?
Do you have a question?
I'm just looking at last year, same thing I did with O&M, and maybe there's 2 of them, but we've got a rehab fire brush breaker that was approved for $175,000, number 29.
Yep.
And I'm looking at Vadar, and it looks like only $91.26 has been spent. Is that wrong?
Yeah, no, that's correct. Because, so that went out for contract, obviously the bid, and the bid came in at $171,000. So obviously that can't be paid until the apparatus is completed. Once it's complete, we can't pay for it ahead of time. So once it's completed, we'll get an invoice, hopefully within a couple months, and then that'll be paid, and then that money will be gone. Does that understand?
Got
Did I
it.
explain that right or not?
But then we have another rehab brush breaker,
Correct.
29 for the
So
265?
there's a numbering. When I wrote the article, we wrote the article for brush breaker 28/29. We chose, by that time, looking at which one needed it the most, we chose to do breaker 28. Next year, we're doing 29.
Got it.
So, and that's how much the price has increased from
Yeah, I'll
one.
say.
And I would like to just remind the Finance Committee, and I've told a few people, we're going to be finishing that rehab here in another couple months. There is going to be some monies that are still going to be needed to finish that rehab. We decided with the town administrator and myself, we bid this project twice. The first time it got bid in over $300,000. The second time we rebid it, changed a lot of things around. We convinced the vendor for the $171. When we did that, we knew there were some things that were still going to have to be finished by this rehab, probably in the tune of around $10,000 or so. And we decided we'd continue with the project, accept the bid, and we were going to deal with that when it got to the end. And I can't tell you what that final number is, and I'm not, maybe we can do something. I don't know, but I don't want to, I just want to remind you that I don't know where it might be something. So. Question?
I don't have any more. Do you guys have any?
Good.
No? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Have a nice night.
Thanks, Chief. Have a good night.
You too.
Excellent as always. I'd expect nothing less from you. I can't make him do this again, you know. I have to make this easy.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, why don't we bring both Select Board and Finance Department back up? I did have a question also. within the finance and accounting, you don't have it, you don't do anything with the finance committee, so you don't have the grant program, you don't have the reserve account. That's not within the finance department.
That's a question I had. I mean, the Finance Committee, I don't see that as being a department, so I don't know what department that falls under. We have money that was budgeted. I think it was like $175,000. That's still in the budget. That hasn't changed, but I didn't include it because I didn't know that that was presented at the same time under what department. I don't know if that Finance Committee is presented under this under the town administrator's budget, or it's presented?
No, it's usually presented on, it has its own.
Yeah.
And then the grant program was in the finance committee, but then it got taken back out.
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to be, but
Right.
they got put there, I think, the last year or two.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be before the split.
Yeah, the $25,000 grant program is before, so wouldn't the 175 for that matter.
Yes.
It is.
But
The
that's,
175 is approved by town meeting to let us be like a mini town meeting is what it.
and then we have another finance where you have your grants for the 25,000 that you have, is it 10,000?
Yeah.
Okay. But I don't have that on my report that I gave you. I wasn't
Okay.
aware that this was part
That's
of these budgets.
So that's why the overall budget will answer some of those questions, so whichever of you wants to go first on their individual. Your budget is pretty self-explanatory, other than we get into that word again, other professional services. Just going forward, 81,000, I'd like to see some definition as to, I assume that this has something to do with Vadar and SoftWrite?
Yes, so through you, Mr. Chair, for the finance accounting budget, we're requesting 7% increase in salary, which is contractual. In the other services, these were projections that were provided before I started, but I still need to look and see because we have the outside auditor, Powers and Sullivan's, that does our financial statements, that's paid for other professional services. If there's any savings, as I look at the detail and look at what has been paid out of the account in previous years, and then you have, the computer software subscription, that is part funding of continuing with SoftWrite plus Vadar, but I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened in the previous years in terms of what was adopted. As you see, the numbers are significantly different between what was adopted in '24 and '25. So those are a few things I'll need to research.
Could it have been like in an IT budget?
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Why is the computer software subscription in your budget? Shouldn't it be in IT?
That should be in IT. As I was mentioning about the housekeeping, I feel like there are some budgets that should reside within IT. I did have a conversation with John about that. So those are things that, I feel like that it should be moved.
Simplifies the whole process.
Yes, but I'd like to know where it was funded, in terms of our auditor, Powers and Sullivan's, where that was funded, what line it was paid out of, plus
There was another line item.
plus SoftWrite and Vadar.
It was SoftWrite and Vadar.
But, yeah, and copy. Remember copy leases?
Yeah, well, there were
coming up
copying
too?
machines, but that wasn't in finance. Wasn't that in the selectmen's budget with it? Was that in IT?
I think it was a shared cost.
It was some crazy number. It was $86,000
Yeah, I
or
remember
something
seeing
for
that.
copy machines, and that was leases,
Yeah.
which we thought was crazy, go nuts numbers.
Copy machines are a black hole,
Yeah, they are.
especially over in the school department.
So that's, through you, Mr. Chair, that's something, as I've been talking to departments, we're looking at copiers, especially, Joe is not going to be here to go over the assessor's budget, but, the amount of money that we're paying for copies every month is a lot, so I'd like to sit down with the vendors and look at different vendors for our copiers to see what type of contract that we can have. A lot of times you have your service contract, but then you have the additional cost of every single copy that you actually make. So I think that's going to come down to working with our vendor and seeing what type of discount that we can get with understanding how many of the departments are using that particular vendor. I haven't done the research into if every department is using the same vendor for their copier and what kind of discount we could possibly get, but that's something that, I'll, be looking into.
Wouldn't the copier vendors be on the state bid list?
Yes, some of them are, but I don't know what contracts you currently have here with the town from all of the departments.
Well, spent many years in the school department, and when I know how back then there were, if we look at the state bid list, copiers were a deal on the state bid list. I don't know if they still are.
Yeah, they're no deal now.
What?
They're no deal.
Well,
they're outrageously expensive.
Back then, the state bid list was the place to go for copiers. Even if you put it out to bid, they couldn't match the state bid list. And it was, sometimes there was few things that you could do on the state bid list that were actually cheaper, but copiers were always one of them. And there was always a good deal. I don't know if it's the same, but that's the way it used to be.
These copy machines, we pay a lease amount of money and then we pay per copy? You're kidding me.
No, it's common.
You pay per each.
Instead of buying toner, they get you the cost per copy.
Why don't we just go buy a bunch of printers and put them beside everybody's desk?
That's even more expensive.
Yeah, it becomes more expensive.
Years ago, when I was at the school department, you might remember, Barry, that we eliminated desktop copiers because they were so expensive. Not the copier themselves, but the ink to go along with it. We absolutely eliminated them, and we come up with we networked all the copiers into everybody's computer. They could use it for a printer. So we completely eliminated desktop copiers. Saved a ton of money. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a huge part of the budget, but I'm sorry, we didn't mean to run off on a...
No, that's okay, Mr. Chair. I mean, we'll definitely look into that. When I know that the copiers are in, I believe, John's budget, so, be meeting with him, and we'll discuss that and what the terms are. I mean, some of the leases, they have term limits, so we can see what the term limits are and look to see what other options there are too. That will be a savings for the town.
So if I'm not mistaken, Karen, when this budget is finalized, am I to understand that the computer software subscription line item may come out of here and go into IT?
That's correct.
All right, so this budget, as it's presented, is not the end of the line as far as what's in this budget is concerned. Some of it may still get moved around a little bit.
That's correct.
Okay.
And
I'm fine with that.
And you're going to provide a supplemental sheet that breaks down these big numbers, whatever's in them?
Yes, I'll for the detail for the other professional services and for computer, I'll just go back to prior year and I can tell you what was paid out of those lines and find out where our budget for Powers and Sullivan, I mean, maybe there's a savings there after the research has been processed. One thing for Powers and Sullivan's, their contract expires on 6/30/2024, so that's something that we need to look at what those terms are, what that consists of, and, just with conversations with the town administrator, what the town would like to do in terms of moving forward. We're having our budgets audited. We can always, put out, a request for proposals, or the procurement law doesn't really apply for the town, for the outside auditing firms, so that's something that we can look at to see, where we can get the biggest bang for the buck.
Do you know when we will see the audit from last year?
They're still working on it right now. There were some delays, just due to vacancies, but the last conversation we had 2 weeks ago, they were moving forward with that. So once I have that information, we're just trying to need that information for bond counsel as well. So I'm working with the treasurer. So once I have that, I'll be able to provide an update to the committee. Okay. But I don't have that yet.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Karen. Your turn, Elaine.
Do you want to do assessor?
I have assessors as well. If you wanted to go through the assessors budget for the salaries are based on contractual obligations that we have. And if you look at the the other total expenses, we have a large increase, contract hire consultants, that's for the revaluations are done every 5 years.
Yeah, we have that. That was the transfer request.
Okay.
Am I correct, Elaine?
It was, I did not hear you say.
The 22,000 for the hire consultants, was that the transfer, or 27,000, was that on the reevaluations, was that part of the Edaville thing, or is that completely separate?
No, that's separate, because it's a reval year.
Okay.
Yeah, they're gonna need the PK. It's just more and more.
I got you. So the other professional services?
And there's software,
Yeah, I should check with Joe on that. I'm not 100% sure. I'll check with Joe, because I do see the increase in other professional services, which might be PK.
And this is why I hate that
I
other
know.
I'm not
stuff.
sure what PK
There are,
stands for.
there are our assessing company that do the valuations. But I thought they are a contract hire, so I thought that's what that increase was for.
I can circle back with Joe and I can I can send an email explaining what those costs are. I met with him briefly.
Yeah, I'd like to know who's in the consultants and then the other professional services. Those are the only two things that I have a question about, which is pretty much the same question I think we have every year, because it's just so vague.
Yeah.
There's no information, there's just a number, and it's called other professional services. And it doesn't define what it is and what's going on.
Yep.
And I believe it may be for the software that Joe needs that is part of the revaluation, but I will confirm that and I'll send the email to you so you have that tomorrow morning.
It would seem to me that software, all the software should be in IT.
Yes.
Every bit of the software, along with every computer, along with everything to do with computers, should be in IT.
Was it not in IT because last year it was in the school?
Well, it was, some of it was in, no, we still got hit with some of it, but we got the new IT in-house, and the school paid for some of that, I thought, last year, and then this year they're not paying for any of it or something like that.
Yeah, and like Karen said, she can send out a detail tomorrow.
Yeah, we haven't got that far yet with IT. We have them coming in too, so. And you want to do treasurer collector?
Yes. So, treasurer and collector.
I'm going to ask you the same question too, again, Karen, I'm so sorry. Other purchase services, computer software subscriptions, this is very, very small number. Contract hire consultants, there's no money involved here, but I just think that this is part of that whole transparency thing.
And this is part of the housekeeping that we'll be working on. And just to note that, you know, when I go over the FY25 budgets, as I've met with these other departments, you see we were looking at reallocating funds to the proper charter accounts just to make sure that that money that they're using is under the actual description of what the funds are being used for. And, you know, just for some conversations, there's accounts that are going to have to be created in VADAR so that we're representing what they're spending. So when we go through these and we have the detail, if there's additional lines, and you may see funds that we're requesting in a different line, and then you'll see another line being reduced, it's because we're trying to create that transparency and making sure that the accounts are set up. Sometimes you have accounts that have been set up in the past and departments don't have any other budget to expend from because they haven't been set up, and so sometimes they'll use whatever accounts have been set up. So one of my goals is to really work with departments to really understand what they're spending their money on. We'll get a really good understanding of the detail of what they're doing, so we have the proper accounts set up in the finance department accounting.
I look at legal tax title 16274 FY23 actual 25 was the adopted we've only spent 8320. Why are they still looking for 25 in FY25? And exactly what is that legal tax title? Is that for tax taking?
That's for tax taking, and I would really want to refer to Kathy. She's not in right now for additional details, but we can have that conversation as we go through her budget.
I mean, if we've only spent 8,300 of it so far out of a $25,000 budget, unless we're expecting everything to go crazy in the next 2 months, it looks to me like there'll be quite a bit of money being turned back. Maybe we can shave that 25,000 in half. And if we needed more, again, I remind everybody that we have the reserve account. Not that I want to see that go to zero in a heartbeat, but you know, I'd much rather see the town put $250,000 in the reserve account and get more realistic in these budget lines. Because whatever we don't use in the reserve account goes back into free cash anyway. And we certainly can't have an ice cream sundae party on the reserve account. So I'm an advocate of making the reserve account, and Bob Fennessy and I talked about this, of making it $250,000 and getting much tighter on the budget so that we didn't have so much swing room. And this is why what we've spent year to date, I think, is so vitally important. Without that number, we wouldn't know that 25,000, we're only spending 8,300. I don't mean to focus in on that one item, but, you know.
Excuse me. Through you, Mr. Chair, we're definitely going to be looking at ways we can save. And, you know, when we talk about that shortfall in revenue, we're always looking at, you know, where in the budget can we make some of these reductions, and that's why I thought it was really important for the current year-to-date actuals to show it along with what we've spent in the past, so we can make those different judgments calls and figure out, you know, where there could be some savings.
Okay. Anyone else?
Same thing with the financial disclosure. I'm curious to see why it went up so much.
Yeah, 2,500 was adopted. We only spent 150, but now they're looking for $5,300. I don't understand. What is that for exactly? So if you could find that out for us.
I'll work with our treasurer, and I'll be able to give that information update to you.
Thank you, Jackie. I didn't even notice that. I tend to go looking for the bigger numbers. Anyone else?
What about like health insurance benefits and so forth? Where is that?
That's above the line on its own.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And you have an article. So within the warrant, you have one section for benefits, which might have 3 areas, but then within your shared costs, there are the rest of the benefits within there. And so we're going through those to make sure that number is accurate in terms of health insurance, in terms of, you know, workers' comp, et cetera.
How did we come out with the health insurance rate increases and the liability rate increases, right? Was it as bad as we originally thought it was going to be?
So those are 2 separate line items, just to be clear, because I think we're talking about them as they're combined, and they're not. So the health insurance is the shared.
You're right. It's above the line.
And the property and casualty liability is in the select board budget, and I can definitely detail that for you when we get there. Health insurance was recommended to be budgeted at 12%, which is, I think we budgeted at 11 or 12%, which is why we're in the situation that we're in. We are hoping to have those numbers very soon.
Did they set the rates yet?
Not yet.
Gateway said that
very soon, which is why we are kind of holding off one more week.
I got you.
So speaking of health insurance, tomorrow night, will the select board look at that too to make sure the percentage is still right? Because I don't know if we...
It's all being looked at tomorrow night.
Okay. Because I don't think the financial policy was redone after that was recalibrated.
It wasn't. The last financial policy with the split was done in 22.
So that will also change the split between the school and the town.
So, yeah, it is definitely higher.
I thought it was 6 or something.
What, 66?
Yes. Last year?
It is
66%. 66-34 was the current split.
No,
That's what it was.
No, the health insurance increased last year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So they give us recommendations on what to budget. So you'll see down below we're not there yet, but that's where the biggest increase in our budget is. They recommend 12% to us also. I know our claims aren't that bad, but I cannot predict how they're pricing it out. If they're pricing it out off of workers' comp or off of property, what are they having to pay more for? We won't know, and we actually won't get those rates till June. So there is a possibility that is over budgeted, but if it is under budgeted, then we're in trouble. So that is the problem with the budget.
Sorry, question? Treasurer collector on the 23 actual, bunch of sections missing, like payroll services. Where's that? On the treasurer collector, bottom left-hand side.
Oh, the FY23 actual?
23 actual, yeah. No payroll services, nothing else done on anything. So that just needs to get added?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So there were some challenges on SoftWrite, and when I wasn't aware before today that I needed to include the treasurer and the assessors for this budget meeting.
Well, that's fine.
And so as I was pulling the actuals, there were some account codes because they're different numbers from SoftWrite to Vadar. So for this section, there were some questions that I had in terms of where hit on SoftWrite and Vadar. So that actuals, thank you, John, will have to be updated to include some of those.
So actually, the 258 is incorrect, because it doesn't bring in anything that's in those empty lines.
I'd like to review that. I'd like to review that to make sure that they weren't put into a different account code before I say that 258 is not correct number.
I'm just saying it may not be a 9.27% increase.
No, because that's going 24 to 25.
Yeah, so this would be FY23 actual, so the expenses have 43.
You haven't got the right information coming in off of 23.
Yeah,
So
that would be
there
wrong.
might be places to make other changes. Anyone have any questions on the treasurer collector? Thank you. I'm looking at the town administrator. What are the additional hours?
Okay, so I'll go through them all. Elected officials remains the same. Town administrator, again, we should have an idea on a exact number very soon. So that was just an estimate. The assistant town administrator, that is not the real percentage increase. Like we said, the bottom line numbers were correct. This is an example where the FY24 adopted number is stated lower than it actually is, and the FY25 number includes longevity, so it's skewed. Trust me, it's a 2% increase.
Can I add to that? So for the town administrator's budget for salary, if you're looking at what was adopted, I'm only putting in what was adopted by council, whether the numbers were right or wrong in the bottom line in terms of the appendix. But the FY25 proposals include the current steps for the staff. And if you want to see a copy of that, I'm welcome to provide that as well.
So, can I just ask a question? So I thought the problem was, like, say you had four columns adding up. I thought they didn't actually subtotal, they hard-coded over the total number. Isn't there a way to go back and just make those equal what they should have been? Like, so say maybe she took 2% higher on that department's salaries.
Yeah.
Can we go back and fix the budget from that year?
So we can tell you what the number should have been, but I cannot transpose what the intent was compared to what was vote was. So if the vote was a certain number, then that's what I have to put in. If the intent was, it not being that, I mean, there's a lot of things within the warrant that I've noticed, based on how they were voted, was not the intent of the vote. So we can talk about that. I don't want to bring that up now, but we can talk about that at another time as we get to those budget line items, and I can explain.
I'm almost wondering, should there be like another column in here that just says like adjustment to FY24 budget or something? with the dollar percentage difference.
What I can do is I can add a column in where you have what was voted by town meeting, and then I can have another column showing what the correct amount should have been, so that as you're looking at the actuals, in terms of from 24 to 25, then it's going to match up, so then that you see the 2%. Or I can provide with, detailed information that represents what should have been in the appendix for FY24. That way you can see the comparison. Okay, this is what their salaries were for FY24, this is what their step level was, this is what the salary should have been, and this is what we're projecting for 25, so then you can see that difference. But I wouldn't change what was adopted, because that was what was illegally adopted that I have to report.
And that is the same case in the procurement coordinator and clerical salaries, that it's just a 2% increase it's showing as more. We did reduce the seasonal temp overtime line item. That was at 75,000. Year-to-date, we've spent about 67. We're probably slightly...
That's the additional hours?
Yeah, we changed the title.
Because that's what I was looking for, was the additional hours.
This is what it really is. It's seasonal, temporary overtime.
Okay.
So we'll probably hit maybe around the 70,000 mark, so we can reduce that. This was largely due to our interim town accountant, our interim finance director.
Right.
But if we did not have it there, then we would have to tap into funds that maybe aren't available. So these are the reasons why we do have stuff like that there, is the...
Can I just ask one? Yeah. I totally understand why you do that, but wouldn't it technically be included in a salary above if it was vacated? So if you had like an interim, say, accountant, wouldn't that salary also be double counted up above if they vacated?
Well, I don't want to get into... Okay.
If somebody leaves a position, the budget stays the same, but you'll have a savings.
Yeah.
So when you look at the actuals, you'll see a savings, and so you're not double counting. You would have a savings within that line item for the town administrator.
I guess what I'm wondering is, so we have the $72,000 here for seasonal temp and overtime, but you're saying that's used for interims, right? If someone left, you need to hire an interim. But wouldn't you really be covered with that in the original budget line above?
Right. So what also happened is now you have the assistant town accountant working out of grade. You're having additional expenses in that department. So it does get offset a little bit, and then not knowing when we're going to hire a new finance director. We just wanted to keep that salary item there because we weren't sure when we needed it. So yeah, right now we're going to run with a balance there.
Yeah. I just think if you're looking for a savings, maybe that could go. That's 72,000.
Well, it really can't.
Well, no, like, so your budget's still up here if somebody left.
Yeah,
So-
but if you have somebody go out, correct me if I'm wrong, Elaine, but we use Shelby.
So
when Shelby was out, we had a temporary replacement for her. She's still getting paid, I'm assuming, out of her budget, because that's part of that whole maternity leave thing, and then we had to fill that vacancy.
Right.
This is where that money came
Yes.
from, was out of additional hours.
And that is-
So we didn't
so
save
that's
any
different than
money.
interim, then.
Yeah.
And that's, actually, I'm not sure where Anne Marie's getting paid from now, but our intent now is also, we have someone helping out getting the accruals
Actually,
inputted.
hold on, if you go back to maternity leave, isn't it usually you get paid out, you paid your first, say, 5 days of your PTO balance, then you go to your short-term disability?
We don't have that.
So you pay them full-time?
So you can use sick time, vacation
leave.
time, personal time. You can use all of your paid time if you choose to. On FMLA, that is the
still
law,
getting
yeah.
paid.
And it's in our policy.
Right.
Okay.
The point is you're still getting paid, and they have a vacancy that they need to fill for the time being.
So we're double
I think
paying.
we're doing the same thing now.
Yeah.
And with the data entry, aren't we doing that?
That would be, this
Right.
would be a category where you could say, increase the amount that we have instead of budgeting that, because you can't, I know they're putting placeholder there
Sure.
for that to happen.
That's all it is. It's
Yeah.
another reserve account.
Right.
Yeah, I just don't know if you would budget a reserve for something like that, you know.
Well, you'd have to cover the unexpected costs, because you're bound in the course of 12 months.
But do you always plan for unexpected costs?
Right.
Well, I think you do if it has any fiduciary responsibility. You have to make some plans for it. We can't just run everything by the seat of our pants as much as we have for the last 25 years.
Well, and that is the fear. That is the fear with even like going back to operations and maintenance and reducing that capital account. You know, you can't predict a breakdown or a damage to a building or something like that.
Right.
That's not caused, you know, that's not covered by insurance or something. So those are the types of things you can't go to the reserve fund every single time for a transfer.
That's right.
And
you could sit back and put $10 million in the reserve account, and then every week we have to approve the budget, you know what I mean? Every line item has to get approved for every department that we can take. It can be carried out to the crazy end, and you know, we don't need to go there, so.
And we could definitely look at reducing it, but I would just be careful with it, that's all.
Well, I'd have a problem with, we can't reduce some of these things unless we're going to increase the ability to get the funding. So it's great to cut the budget, but when we're cutting things that we know may not work out, not won't work out, but maybe they won't work out, then we need to have the protection built in somewhere else to get it. Otherwise, we're looking at special town meetings and deficits and all kinds of aggravation and problems that come up with that scenario.
But I think, I mean, other than Shelby going out, you only spent $4,000 the year before. I don't know, I'm just thinking if you're looking for something that might be duplicated up above.
Could I comment through you, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
And it could be different here in Carver, but I have seen as, you know, different practices that, you know, with the town meeting, they vote both two statutory categories, both salary and expenses. And sometimes you have unforeseen events that come up. It could be in the town administrator's budget, it could be in the fire, it could be in police, it could be in any budget where you have an unforeseen event that comes up where you're going to need to, you know, provide additional money towards paying somebody to do someone's job, whether out sick, which is still getting a paycheck, especially if they have a lot of sick time. So I feel like if this is where the town wants to have those funds at the end of the fiscal year, if there were any unforeseen events that came up in any one of the departments on the town side that had to do with salary, where there wasn't enough money to fund it, we can always, at the end of the year, you know, Mass General Law allows us to come to the select board to request a transfer from a salary line to cover expenses. So those are things that we can do. So a lot of times it's done as a journal entry, and so you'll see an expense hitting this budget, but that expense could be from, you know, different departments, but that's something that would have to be approved and discussed with the select board before it's done. So just to add, you know, in terms of, you know, keeping the money in the budget for that, for things that may come up.
Yeah, I have no problem with leaving money in the budget for that purpose.
So just the history, the 2021, we spent 33,000 out of additional hours. In 2022, we spent 41,000. So there is a justification. Nobody likes to just throw a number in there.
Yeah.
But I think the 70 is too high. It should be somewhere around the 30, 40.
Yeah.
But we, you know, payroll numbers are going up. So, you know, what 40,000 bought 3 years ago, it doesn't buy that anymore. So there's justification to have an increase, but maybe that number could be comfortably set at 50,000. And, you know, if you needed more, you come and get it, but 50,000 instead of the 70. I mean, you know, we're at a point now where we're trying to get down to a manageable number, and I don't think we're that far off, so.
Yep.
And this line item isn't exempt from reductions as we look at the overall budget.
Yep, absolutely.
And then we're back to...
So TA contractual obligations, that was actually in an expense line item last fiscal year. We moved that up to the salary line item because, again, we don't know what the contract will be for the new town administrator, and that's what that line is for, and that would have to get taxed as a salary. So that got moved up. That's why there's no, it's zeroed out prior to that, and down below, you'll see it's zeroed out.
Where'd the money come from for the guy you guys hired, Rick White? Where'd the money come from to pay the headhunter?
Other professional services? Your favorite line?
That's my favorite line.
See, we needed that money,
That's why I
Alan.
had to ask that question, because, you know, I didn't see it listed here.
So speaking of that, so we are changing it to contracted consultants for your entertainment instead of other professional services.
But wouldn't a headhunter be like recruitment?
Yeah.
That's typically how you see it on like.
But we don't have a line for that.
Oh, I know, just.
We try to to you, Chair, we try to categorize the different expenses. So if there's a contract that we're going to sign, then we would have it under contracted services. Sometimes contracted services could have a list of different type of contract services, but in terms of best practices with DOR, as we put in, you know, we have different object codes that have been provided. We try to have it categorized under one area. So if you said to us, you know, under your contracted services, we know these are all contracts that have been signed, and then we can provide a detailed report of the different contracts.
How does your headhunter work? Is it a percentage of the person's salary? Is
No,
it?
it was flat rate, wasn't it?
What's that?
Yeah.
How does the
Right, was flat
headhunter
rate,
work?
right?
Flat rate. Yep, went out to bid, flat rate.
Yeah, they always have been.
Yeah. That's what it was a couple of years ago, too. It was just flat rate.
Yep. So let's see.
Everything
Seminar.
else was pretty normal here, except
Yeah.
project management. Can you explain that line to me, Elaine?
So project management is for unforeseen costs of projects that you might have a change order on, or you might, so a department might have, like say operations and maintenance, you know, a project going on, and they might say, we needed these 10 extra parts in, we can't pay for them. So that's why we have that. It has been reduced a lot in the last several years. We have always utilized that account. That's something.
I think it was 75,000 last year, and then we got cut.
And we've used it. I don't know, John, if you have those numbers, but in the past we have used that account.
77.9 for FY23.
Yeah.
18.4 last year.
So,
Let's see.
do you have any other questions on each line item? So the town report and town warrant, that has always been a problem, not having enough money. Paper is expensive, printing is expensive, and we have to have town reports and town warrants. And if we print in-house, then we buy paper with that.
Well, it'd be much cheaper to do it somewhere else, wouldn't it? Isn't it, the warrant cheaper to send out?
It's very expensive, which is why we went up.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's cheaper to do it in-house?
It is, but the problem is it's when you need 600 of them, because you cannot predict how, you can't go to town meeting without enough warrants for everybody. You have to have 500 to 600.
That's right. And what about the annual report?
Yeah,
books?
same.
That's got to be outrageously expensive, too.
And again, it depends if you do color pages. We change that around every year. Some years, the cover is always color. Some years we'll put a color page in the middle, and most years we don't. And sometimes departments will submit pictures with their annual report, and we'll change them to black and white and not do a color page, but we try not to insult people, so sometimes we throw a color page in there. Sometimes it's requested from the board to have a specific picture in there, so we want that in color. And actually, a lot of people collect these, believe it or not. So we do try to make it nice.
Do you have to pay people overtime, though, to assemble the books?
It goes to print.
It goes to print, okay. No, I'm sorry, not the books, I meant the warrants. If you're printing them here in-house. Are they able to do that during the day in their own
That
hours,
would
or do you
be
have to pay overtime?
our staff. No, we do it during the day. The times we have been able to print, most times we go to Staples. And if like another night is added and we think we're going to run out, then we'll just print in-house. And I think those were the only big increases. And then insurance, so I can explain municipal, I'm sorry, does anyone have questions?
No, I think the insurance you've already explained to us.
Yeah, so just to give you a little bit of detail on that, that is property, casualty, public officials liability, workers' comp, and then it's also our police injured on duty. It's also our fire and EMS. So we have Maya for property and casualty. We have VFIS for police, fire, and EMS. And we get specialized services for police, fire, EMS with VFIS because that's what they specialize in.
Do we shop these numbers ever, or does this is just it?
No, we do shop, actually.
And what about the health insurance? Do we shop with Gateway?
You can't shop with Gateway here in a group.
So
you could leave the group, but that's a whole other issue. You'd have to leave the group.
Yeah, that health insurance is I was around for the beginning of Gateway. It was one of the originals, and it's done the town well. I mean, it goes up and down, and just like the rest of them do. Saved a ton of money when we first went over. You have good years, you have bad years. It all depends on your experience. But
didn't they go down during COVID? The rates dropped.
We had one year where I think it was 21, there was 0 increase.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it's
And
FY20.
did they give you like a Unicare or something, like our Blue Cross Blue Shield?
Yep.
But you can't go jumping around in health insurance.
No, I don't disagree. I just didn't know if there was any competition, if it was something we looked at. I agree with you.
We looked at it a while back on the Finance Committee years ago. The GIC, we looked at Mayflower, and we were ready to pull the trigger, or at least recommend Mayflower. We got a Gateway, but then they had a spike. In Mayflower, I think you have to pay like $250,000 to get into it right off the bat.
Exactly. So each
had a buy-in, and if you left it when they had a surplus, you didn't get it back.
So that is the problem. That is the problem with Mayflower.
The rates were considerably low, but then they spiked the year we were thinking about changing. The rate spiked.
So right, but once you're in, then you're good. So right, for Mayflower, that is the advantage of you pay to get in, but then once you're in, the rates are lower. And then with Maya, you are rated individually. So I believe with Mayflower, you're rated as a group. So your town could have big losses and you won't get penalized. The whole, 80 towns spread the cost out. Whereas if you were to go with Maya, they are going to just rate you on your individual charges.
Gotcha.
So there's pros and cons to everything.
Have we ever checked wellness programs? I wasn't sure if they had discounts from insurance if you get a part of a wellness program.
They do. Typically, every insurance program has a wellness program, and ours does offer one. And that anyone in town who does have town health insurance should contact the payroll and benefits coordinator for information on that.
Okay. Anybody else? All righty. Thank you. And before you leave, I'm going to jump ahead to the next meeting date.
Yeah.
So let's look at them. We don't have to have Karen. She can.
And we can decide if we want to have another joint meeting.
Yeah. So we have a meeting. It's already posted for the 22nd. And
With the school.
that meeting is going to be with the school. And we can also, obviously, it's not going to be the whole night of just the school, so we can pick, we could have the police. We'll look at the ones we haven't met with yet. We can't meet with IT because John Neely will be at the Middleborough Town meeting that night, and I talked with him today. He asked if we could push it off. So my thought process was to meet on the 22nd. We could meet on the 25th, which is that Thursday, for IT, because he's not in town on the 29th. He's also gone that whole week. So we either can meet with John Neely on the 25th and IT, make it a quick meeting, or we can include another 1 or 2 departments, and then that'll be done. The 22nd, we would have done the school and the police, and so we'd be all done with the departments by the 25th, and then we could meet with Karen again on the 29th for just the budget.
Yeah.
The stuff that's not been covered and any changes that were made departmentally. So we don't have to go through this whole can of soup all over again. If there's been no changes to O&M, it can be what you already saw, but we made a change over here with this. So if that, would that work for you, Karen?
Yeah, I think that's fine, and, you know, I can, if there's a date that you'd like to be able to review the information prior to the meeting.
If you can get it to us by the 25th, 4th, 5th,
Okay.
so we have a couple days to just look it over as the overall total budget.
Yeah, I mean, if you have questions, we can address those questions before we meet on the 29th.
Sure.
If there's changes or adjustments I have to make, then we can do that before the meeting.
Can we see the revenue projection?
Yes, so I'm going to have
too?
everything,
Okay.
yes. I have the revenue, but, you know, by then we
You're
should
such an
probably have
accountant.
other numbers. But what you'll get is you're going to see the total revenue, you're going to see the complete allocations, you're going to see all of the expenses.
Okay.
Everything, I mean, I have the reports, we met today on it, but I just need to make sure the numbers are confirmed. We'll be meeting again with departments, so as I'm updating the budgets, they're going to go back to the departments for a final review and approved by departments before you get the report.
So it looks like it's going to be 22nd, 25th, 29th, and the 30th is the joint meeting with the select board. And that's the last opportunity that we're going to really have on the general budget, because they have to certify by the 3rd that Friday. Capital Outlay has more breathing room, so you do not have to join us, Capital does not have to join us on the joint meeting with the select board. You're more than welcome to, because 2 of your members will be there anyway.
Yeah. We did
So,
last year.
I think you should come, just because there's going to obviously be some conversation in this budget process that you should be made aware of.
The table does get tight, but we'll all.
We'll survive.
Make it an octagon.
We'll survive. We can just sit on John's lap. It won't be a problem at all. So,
The 29th will be at 7?
they'll all be at 7 o'clock. Well, with the exception of the select board, I don't know what their particular pleasure is,
They
but
usually start at 6.
yeah, that's wonderful. But there are people that can't make it at 6 o'clock because they actually work for a living.
I'll get there. I'll figure it out.
And I say that with all due respect.
I know, and I
This is
appreciate
the reason
that.
why we
It's so
moved it,
hard
was for
me.
you and Ashley, because people work. And, you know, I mean, usually I'm home by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so I did it when we did the interviews. I said they gotta be after 5. That was for you too.
Thank you.
You owe me.
I do.
So our 3 meetings will be 7 o'clock. The select board can do whatever they think they want, but I tend to think that they'll do their, well, what typically happens is they conduct their own business, and then they bring us in at 7. And if they don't want to do it that way, that's the way I'll insist they do it. Mr. Selectman, you can pass that along.
Sure.
So that's how we did it last year, and I want to make it so. I assume we will have somebody taking minutes at the joint meeting, so we will not need Ashley. Would you be available those other 3 nights?
The other 3, yep, I'm good. Just
Okay.
not the 30th.
Not the 30th, because that's a Tuesday, and you're not available on Tuesdays.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so that's it. Thank you so much.
Quick, last question. Sorry.
Sure.
Quick one. When do you think you'll have the payroll schedule that you talked about earlier? And the other item was the dollar value of warrant articles. When do you think you'll have that?
Is this addressed to me?
Yeah, sorry, Karen, sorry.
I already have
Where has the
warrant.
answer?
I have the warrant articles on a spreadsheet itemizing. So for FY '24, I've gone back and I have it based off of the warrant articles. There's housekeeping that needs to be done with warrant articles based on how they're written and what your intent was. So I definitely need to address that to make sure that those funds are put into the proper account based off of your intent. So I think there's definitely something I want to discuss, and as I send out the reports, we can go through it. And your other question was about the payroll?
But yeah, the payroll summary schedules that we talked about,
Oh, for the departments?
for all departments, yep.
So for the departments that we presented today, I can send those to the committee. I can send it through you, Mr. Chair, and then as I meet with the rest of the departments and we're reviewing the rest of the salary sheets and going through all the contracts, we'll
Why don't
have.
you hold off till you get it all together and
Okay.
just send it to us in one whack? That would be a
Okay.
lot easier than getting 3 different splintered reports. It makes it easier for you too, and John can wait another week.
And I want
Sure,
the
it's been
format
months.
to be consistent, you know, as I move forward, I want the format to be consistent
Careful, we'll make it
for
2
all the
weeks.
departments.
That'll be fine.
Okay.
If you have any problem with him, just let me know.
Great.
Thank you for your patience.
You're welcome. He's actually not as hard as it seems. It's pretty easy. Anybody else for these ladies?
Nope.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The only thing we have left is minutes we'll take care of in a second, and we have, which was the number 4 item, the Edaville transfer. Actually, before you leave, if you don't mind, can I have your copy of that transfer?
Yeah, there you go.
I'm gonna, when we vote on this, I'll sign off on it, you can have it right now. So, what this is what we voted on 4 months ago. We gave Joe the $22,000 to do the assessment to Edaville. This current one is just a revision. It's not asking for any more money. It's asking to include FY24 and FY25. The original one was FY 2020 to 23.
That's right.
20 to 23. It's in his cover letter, which I have in your packet. So that's all they're doing. There is no money difference. All we need to do is just accept the additional dates.
I'll make a motion to accept the additional dates for the transfer of the appraisal for Edaville from FY 20 to 23 to FY 20 to 25.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Since this is my first meeting, can you explain to me what's going on?
Yes. I'm so sorry. Edaville, we had to set aside, oh God, it was a ton of money.
Yeah.
$250,000?
I think so.
Because Edaville was challenging the assessment. And in the state of Massachusetts, when you challenge the assessment, the town has to take, if you challenge your tax bill at your house, the town has to take the money you pay in taxes and set that money aside in case you win. Because if we were to just ignore that and spend it and you won, now we have to pay you. So what happened with Edaville was we set aside a lot of money because Edaville was challenging. And in order to have an argument made with Edaville, because let's face it, it's a very unique piece of property, you can't just go to Joe Appraiser down the street and he can tell you what Edaville is worth. It's very unique. So they were looking to get a specialist who, this is what he does for a living, is these oddball properties. And that appraisal amount was going to be $22,200, which we felt was a short price to pay if in fact it would get us back $250,000 in tax revenue. And then originally Joe had wanted to do, Joe's the assessor, Joe Roach, wanted to do FY20 to FY23. And then he decided, came to me, I don't know, a couple weeks ago and said, we'd like to increase this to FY24 and 5, but there'll be no dollar increase. And I said, yeah. I went to the interim town administrator and I said, you know, what do you think about this? And she said, yeah, it's got to be before the committee, and that's it.
All right.
Actually, what I said was, why can't I just sign this now? And she said, no, you can't do that. It's got to go before the committee.
And I think he said, if I remember correctly, when it's like an entertainment property like that, it could go off different ways to value it. It was receipts or something else. I can't remember what the other one was.
Yep.
But it's not just like a house.
Yeah, makes sense. Thanks for the explanation.
Sorry. Not trying to make John uncomfortable either, because
Hey, I've been there.
it's where the poor guy works. Did I explain all that correctly, John? No, you can't.
Fair enough.
So, that motion was made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor of FinCom members only, please.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. So it's 6-0. Nice to say that again. Elaine, this says here the transfer voted in the sum of, I'm going to put 0 down there and put date change.
Yep.
Actually, date change only. Three, 4, 8. Okay. Hey, if you would like to have this, you can, if you'd be so kind, you can take that I don't know what, I imagine Karen needs it, but that's the sign off. And then the original one's underneath it. Has everybody had a chance to take a peek at the minutes? Thank you again, Ashley, for those.
You don't need this anymore, right?
So we have to close, though, we have to adjourn.
Yeah.
Do you want me just to adjourn?
Yeah, go ahead, you want to?
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn capital outlay?
Second.
No, we have to
I know
have the
it-
motion, she can't make it.
Oh, second.
Okay.
He's always an aye.
All those in favor, motion made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, have a great night, capital.
Thanks, everyone.
I'll
We're right
see you guys on the 22nd.
Trust me, we're right behind you.
I'll make a
The
motion.
minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written from February 5th, 2024.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes from February 5th, 2024. You may not vote, you need to abstain. Everybody else was here, am I correct? Yowza. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. And now I'll take that magic motion. We're done, right?
Do anything with Old Colony?
Oh, this is just an FYI. Elaine sent me that today. Old Colony was certified in that 1,176,966, which actually drops us down $279,683. I think I sent everybody an email when I found that out, but we had to wait until it was actually certified. And that was, Elaine sent me that today, it just got certified recently, so. And that new number is in the budget. So that was just, it was just an FYI. Anything else? Any other comments?
Okay.
Take a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good night.